Hello, I will try it in English this time. I was thinking again. Let me take you virtually with me, and we're having time sitting there at night and talking about that what we want to move in life, so to speak, to find a common ground to do the right thing. And this is not known to be strange, maybe to you, but maybe you learn that it is now for me as well a strange thing to understand that for me it was raising me. Learn and help. There was a mission with everyone around me, and it was not only, as others thought, a believer's mission. It was something not explained. This kind of raising I did not have, and it is for you of interest, because if you are interested in learning of history and then understanding, I do not want to whistleblow. I do not want to blow secrets in the open. It is a thing others could hear as well. Maybe had not been interested, but now I understand it was strange to the, let me say, ordinary. It is not to make me something better. It is rather not known how to evaluate. Of course, I won't do it if I not already had come to the conclusion. It is something that was special. But there was a belief as well not to give the applause yourself. This is biblical, but it is in the whole society. Do not give yourself good grades. The quality is demanding, but you see it because others correct you and say, do it better. And I saw it being done. And it is important that it is rather good, not to show everything. People are then interested to have you as a talent, and talented children can be exploited. And it is not only talents. My mother was in a group of young, and I hope you to help me to find out more of the strange or secrets, not to break a secret, but to help understand. I think it was unwanted. Others could have had the interest not to talk too much about it. This could well be the case. Maybe it is still now. But even then, I had learned you do what makes sense. But I now see the interest of my parents being not as it ought to be. There was international people, and now I understand those had been counseling leaders. I do not mean the leader of of a school, or it is of course something good as well. I mean leaders who lead society. This is not necessarily politicians, but this would help you to understand that there are people who think according to common sense and who work on it. And then this is in the Federal Republic. The army had lost the war, and then there was the building up, and this was not too much explained as well, but I understood it is according to very precise following of the rules. As you understand by yourself, it is not possible to have a very good plan and then 100% have the result wanted. And this is preaching as I learned it. People not saying I preach, but counseling to find the better solution, a better program for television, not only educational, but for recreation as well. The musical Cats, of course, was composed by people. And in the system, I did not know it was a system. I thought it is those my parents knew, but it must have been a quite broad system around the world. The musical Cats. Is something that was mentioned as well. And it was not mentioned as extraordinary. It was there, and I did not even know if it was good or not good. It was there. It was a thing people had as an influence, and it was of interest to those who made money with it. For the actors, then it came to Hamburg, and it was not for me to say good or not good. It was a thing to think about. How long? I was a child, maybe that age, a little bit more grown, and there was the try to have respect for everyone. The culture may be different, and this is the human approach, as I learned it. I had not the word or the remark human. It was as people did it, and then I learned it was yes, with those quality. It was not a quality people. It was, of course, a contrast. Others knew the things from the paper, and I did not even know. But what was it to me? Later I said, okay. No, I did not even say okay. You understand? Those are Jews with a synagogue and with a history where there had been a behavior I could not understand. Those must have been of a different belief, who did things you had to argue first before planning was put into place, and those people must have been with a different basis of belief. But then I understood not everyone who says so. I'm a believer is really doing that. They are, I don't know to call them pretenders. It was not for me. It was raising with pedagogical demand from Mama. And Mama, when I came back, and it really happened from a movie, the other Mama was saying, you better learn. And maybe it was the good influence of the Jews who are raising their children. It was not that good. Maybe it was better not to have too much raising, too much teachers than you are learning, and maybe it is too much stress. But I have the chance to have, and this gives me the, are those the same Jews as in Germany? I thought to myself, but I could ask it to Mama. And then, of course, it was said, people are different. And I did not understand about the things that had happened. It is not a thing to explain to children too much. But there had been battles and killings between other groups. But from churchgoers, believers. And I don't like the idea, as you understand. It is, I cannot, because I had been trained that way, to explain a decision in a good company is discussed. You discuss it. Is it good? Could it be better? And then there is, of course, a moral in the workforce, a moral in the marriage, a moral in the family, and then you have that over centuries. I'm not sided. I can't, but yes, I'm sided on the side of those who have the demand of the basis of churchgoers. But then there was no church going anymore. Protest, I don't know, it wasn't explained. It was an exit out of the church because there had been the sign, father's friends not allowed. No, the Jews not allowed. Not allowed. Had to keep out. And then it was even more strange. The church had been aggressive evangelizing, and I had another shock. You cannot advertise this way. And thinking about it, there were Jews around, but no different. But those did not say anything when I had remarks. Those were relaxed. And it is important that this is an ongoing investigation. I myself have to understand that it is important. For every child, I now think it should be known that there had been, I hoped it had been in every town, there had been families who thought that way. What is right and wrong, and do not follow the crowd, but there had been a strict regime with a leader, and then that what you know of, yes, better you do. There had been very good friends and co-workers of my father who had been Muslim, and those had not complaints, but I didn't understand with the so-called war, with a cross, and this is a contradiction as well. But you cannot change what had been there. You think yourself, but I heard the other side, and learn from history, I say. You need a good belief. Belief in quality, belief in people, belief that is what you do not see. You want to have it. It is not there. This is a belief. I believe in God. And I had better talks about that with people I later learned who are believers. But I think in India it had been about the responsibility, about possession. It was something people would say it is wise talk. And this judgment is for me. I did not learn it from the parents only. I was abroad and I asked about it. And I was allowed to do so. I had people who took me alongside. Not everyone wanted to talk about belief. But I wanted to know because that had been the difference. As my mother, where is she? Papa. He later asked me how to do it. He had a method. I think it wasn't selling too much to advertise that way. You can go there and have arguments like better convert. Yes, of course, you can do so. At wartime, better convert before being shot. But does it help? My advertisement is hopefully totally different. I'm now a little bit experienced in life, and I do not want to do that. What I discussed it, people saying things that had been like advertising sugar water, like something of medical help. Of course, it could be a medical help if you have sugar lack of sugar, and then of course it could. But you understand what I mean. Papa, I want to remember him in a enjoying way, but he did not have too much laughs. This is in a basement somehow, where there is wine, and a little wine from time to time. I'm not advertising drinking, rather not, because if you are in a decision-making position, for example, a father in a family, and others are demanding by itself, or you're a pilot, and sometimes now I think there's responsibility to explain that this could be forfeiting others with false information. There had been really expectations to my mother, and she said, I have a child, and others thought she would adopt someone else, but she didn't. And then I was alongside with merchants, I think, but they did not say it too much, that it was merchandise. I was traveling with, of course, leaders in other countries without being explained, nobility. Those travel, as it is said, undercover, and it is from the viewpoint of a believer, someone standing in the responsibility in every case before God and man. And indeed, I'm lucky I had been a child, asking even Mr. Bronson. He then did not answer. He was quiet, and this was very respected. If people are quite strict, what they want and what they don't. Sometimes this was, I saw it with others, and you learn by what you see. It was tested, and if people thought I'd follow his ideas and say what he wants to hear, it was not as wanted. Was it scientific approach? You might say so, if science is a method to make things sure, to have it as a calculation to others. And there was even the trying to make schooling scientific, or the healing of the wounds by killing, murdering, and I had a man, not only one, who was having music, and then I had very much respect, and I did not want too much of it. It was that much admiration from the man who was a military leader, and he was sometimes traveling with Mr. Ullmann. And my mother said, yes, of course he did so, but it was a thing he did because it was his character. Yes, molesters were thrown out of the train because he was a chief, a commander, and if he said so, the next time you are out. And it was, of course, a thing I couldn't understand, but it must have been. But it was because of the character. You cannot, my parents didn't appraise me. It is a prerequisite, to be honest. Papa as well. Papa was strict sometimes. And then he wanted to have this little family. And I think I do not want to take revenge. Why? Why not? I saw people being eaten by it, and there had been really people from, even from the quality people. Yes, it is a thing. Those had been the Bildungsbürgertum. This is German. This says those have been very good because being trained and being trained over decades at school, doctors, others not that good fighters. And this was rather good to have peaceful people. But then there was training, and I heard about Krav Maga, but it is a thing you don't tell too much. It was the perception by others, you want to have a good grade to, and therefore you don't tell too much. And then I wanted, because I saw my father being maligned, having been in a uniform of someone as a Schutzmann, and he was not wanting to give the Hitler greeting. I don't know if he dared, he made that most often not too much, because it was not a thing to be wanted, to have a god-like figure. But how much could you do? And then, of course, the thing that, yes, quality people I see. And my mother once said, the elder, if you had been in Breslau, there had been no problem with your schooling. There had been always then, if it had been back then, friends who would have helped and even had said, I can do it even better, and if you help, do it right. This had been the helping, and it was with me. I think I thought, is it dreaming? Yes, it is quality people who do so. And of course, I now want to make it easier on me. Therefore, I say it maybe was then too demanding. I didn't have it. But it is really that I had a short possibility to look into families. I asked for it, who had the style of the Breslau friends. I did not like the idea to call them grandfather's friends. It was the idea then a grandfather's old man. I was young, and I wanted to have a father who was going in the forest with me, and it had been in the old days that there had been a program, only a knife and then live off the land and learn camouflage and learn about the herbs. And I was never a man who was very well in the knowledge, but there was more than with others. There was more than with others. Mama was a school teacher. She as well had the idea, and this must have been the influence, prolonged from of old, but not, it was always said, in earlier days it had been better, as it had been. And this is not to blow it out of proportion. I'm not giving more credit to this level, no, this measurement. Like, this is a measurement to say how much centimeter is. There had been quality people, doctors, who could do operations, and then the other tried to do it better, not having been there before. And this was called the Wissenschaftsgesellschaft, and it was international. And I'd like understatement, because the quality measurement then is too high. There had been a meeting of Nobel Prize bearers, and one said, if it is you, the whole things people said is wrong. Or yes, it is wrong, and there was high demand. I could never follow that, but therefore don't think I have not a good raising, a good teaching or schooling. It was broadband. It was really broadband, and if you believe it or not, the computer system, I was able to have a little bit, and this of course then is secret. One said, I'm not allowed to say, and I was never, but I won't do it, because for the sake of my mother, especially the elder, for the sake of the people, who then would have had difficulties maybe. But I remember interface was through the window. He was he was having not the motherboard in a small scale, but it was very large, and then North Bridge, South Bridge, and this was to have an orientation, to have knowledge where you are in the house. And yes, really, I had that. I don't know why. Therefore, I had the raising, the benefit of good quality people, but others, even Jews, did not have it. And this is damage. Of course, you support your own group. And those had been pushed, or yes, pushed from the outside, discrimination, feeling, but it had been with the gypsies as well, and it had been with foreigners as well. Therefore, it is no excuse, but to understand this comes out to make you special. And this had been then after the war with the refugees from the East. I don't know, it is I think not in a box, but here it had been as well, that if you have difficulties, you're looking for ways, and I don't know how it came out with others. I did not learn too much about Silesian men and women, but there had been the asking of the man of the Schielenburg, the Mr. Osman, where are those? He looked out for himself before I even heard about it. And why did I hear? I was curious. And it was supported for me. There was support, there had been support, and this is developing. And I'm wanting the others who had been fellow inhabitants, you might say, fellow living people in this house, not to be too much under pressure. It is a thing where you have then the advantage if you start a thing at an early age, and you yourself are asking again and again, you of course have then the chance to understand where the server system is built, and you understand it even never having seen technology. And then I had the education as a Fachinformatiker, and it was a thing not funny, but it was even that it is understanding a system, bits and bytes, currency or not, and then the system 8-bit, 16 and so on. And I was never after figures if it is this or that, and then there were not enough digits, and then we took ABC. And who was it? Those I was interested in it had been fathers, had been looking for talented people, and the interests are there. Merchandise had not been, yes, on the sideline of course, but who was paying for it, I did not know. Now I'm a little bit more interested. There had been expectations, and I said later I want to have a look at it as well. There had been the righteousness, a topic, a big topic in Pakistan, people even there understood there had been a stop fighting of the Aborigines or the First Nations or something like it against the industrialization people. And this was stopped, and I feel on the side of responsibility not to forget it. There is not possibility if you have nothing, but if you have something, it is a matter for detecting what it is. Preciseness in earlier days had been the quality grade, and Jews had been in it. But I'm not saying I'm advertising for Jews. I'm not doing it. It's not working. I had a conversation. No, it was not my conversation. It came out that way. With the quality people, the Germans, die Nachfahre von den Dichtern und Denkern, die descendants of the thinkers, of the brain people, and it is not a precise translation. I have a broadband education. My English is not the best, the German not as well, and this is no excuse. But it is rather that what later someone said to my mother, this is what we want. The school grades were not that good. I wanted if I had children, maybe there will be some Elsie and some Fritz, maybe a Max. I wouldn't raise them another way. Maybe not that poor. But you learn that the value is humans, people. And the only thing I have, people cannot take, is my character. And this was a thing my mother explained. She was having an education. I never thought she could have been the emperor's daughter. Therefore, it is not that important if she had been. But if it is, this would be a role model. But please be aware, it is dangerous. I don't know if maybe I'd rather do it a little bit different. I have been with animal trainers, with bears. I trusted him. He said the bear won't do. The grizzly bear won't do anything to me. But later I learned he did not find out. Maybe the new technologies around, why there was not predictable behavior from time to time, and it is a thing. The old people would have gone into, and I saw those had been now distributed around the world. Yes, I had a meeting with the Nobel Prize group who was wanting, and those professors, of course a little bit more intelligent than I am, but those didn't say so. It was rather, why are you not having what we expected, talented people? And I won't go into accusation. I saw it worse. Not with me. I saw it worse. It is in the world, of course, you know, and it is there that people are not righteous. And it is for me to make a difference, but please do not expect too much. But I had not forgotten that I said honesty and dignity. And then enough time to think about it, and then not only money, but also possibilities. And then there had been the alarm, and this was the counseling my mother gave me. And I understood it is a thing where there is diplomacy. And this is the duty of everyone. You can't put it on politicians. You cannot put it on Nobel Prize committees. There will still be, unfortunately, dishonesty and injustices, and it is important to trust where there is trustworthiness. And my mother earned it together with me, and I cannot accept that then there is a help, as it had been. This is really the case, and I'm now shocked to understand I was a believer into the possibility that there is that possible that doctors do not understand that what those say could be interpreted. As I heard it after World War II, there had been problems, and then, but I'm not accusing others didn't do it. It was a time, the errors and what you can't change, but the method to put it under the carpet I don't like. Not under the carpet. It is important not to blow it out of proportion, but yes, I remember was he Japanese or Chinese, he said this and that, and they say, and the system of my grandfather, I mean, there had been corrections, but you cannot do it if you have the supply chain, not yourself. You can do it if you have enough influence, and this is not done by trickery or with trickery, and you can only do it if everyone is wanting to have the right scales. Papa, I want to be remembered that way, that he was rather happy. His weakness, no. His strength, no. The circumstances were then some kind of weakness. And with me it is the same, but it is not necessarily that way. And there is not much needed. Please don't blow it out of proportion and think I want to have a fast or a quick correction. It is not in my possibility. Being a righteous man, there are others influenced. I now understand even more than I want, and there could be the blame on me as well. And this would have been, with the help of the righteous people I knew, but now are maybe too old, not being taken advantage of. You can do that, to blame someone. You should have said it earlier, and because of that there is a follow-up and so on. It is no problem to think about it. Therefore, it is important to look as a detective does it. You mean detectives are all doing that? I've been with the specialists who were looking at a crime scene. It was an invitation, and there was a thought about having better equipment. And there was the blue light, then there had been the duct tape and the photographs, and then 4 cameras to have a 3D, and was then with the knowledge, and it was a holiday business for me. It was because I wanted to look how the equipment is there. I thought, why is there no exchange to make it better? To have a better, as it is called, documentation, not necessarily on crime scenes only. It is because it is calculated the way to first prioritize it. It is a thing I'm talking to pupils, of course, to me little one. I would not need to explain to you. Prioritization, or is it something else? Priority, first. What does a governor or mayor want to have first? Some look at the papers. It is security. If there is the water not good, it is the water. The energy system, schooling. And the rest is private. Maybe it is that way, but look at it. In this country I expected to have the responsibility, but to accuse it is not there, more in the forefront, more on the first place. But then I already heard that suddenly politicians are very sensitive. Oh, don't, this could be misused and so on. Therefore, I had to wait. It was mentioned before that there had been something in Breslau, but then there had not been the witnesses, or the witnesses said, in America one said, this is not believed, and do not raise havoc. If you say, but is there raising havoc if you say there had been a difference? What is with the saying that it was said if there had been someone, the countryside of the leisure, what would be different? I don't understand, but it was a rumor. I saw the many graves, but it is not an excuse. Graves. Not only the being killed, those are not understandable. It is still a shock if you are an ethical thinking man or woman. It is not possible to do. And then, of course, it is very sensitive. If you see what, if it would be true, then there would be, maybe people thought there is there's a holy one. I don't know. Yes. Yes, Mother Teresa, but she worked on it. But my father, my mother was herself, having said, she did not, of course, not advertise it. She did things that were regarded as being not good. She said because of a thing happened, she lost something. And then she had to travel to the US, and she did not say it because it was still a wound. But this was not political, or was it? No, this rather was because of something that broke. And blown by the wind, this was not only story, this had not been only story, it had been a program. And it was the work, fundraising, and then it was looking for the actors for the movie. And this is something that is influencing, and I never was in the position to give grades. Of course you have privately, but then understanding how much it is demanding to do something yourself. There had been the entry into a new thinking. It was people entering America. What do they think about the lifestyle in America? Of course, I was not having there the main quarter, the main Wohnsitz, also Hauptwohnsitz, the main living center, and it was not for me to decide. This is for the parents. My mother said she was raised, my mother the elder, she was raised to help the, as she said, as it is the collection of, as we say in German, deutsch geprägt oder deutschstämmig, German rooted, but it is not necessarily a German Reich. It is not necessarily, it goes only Austria, part of Switzerland. It is the language and the network. Mr. Einstein, wasn't he from Austria, Hungary, somewhere, and then having moved to, and he was modest and said, I was not alone, we had a network. Therefore, I had the chance to meet the role models. And I always thought I'm not that talented. And people did not say yes or no. I learned, my mother said, the younger, every child could and should be supported. My mother, the elder, she listened to her counselors. And who had been a counselor? Everyone. Everyone was looking for talents. And I always thought, except in this part of the world. Then someone from, I think it really had been a mountain region. Yes, of course, but I'm cautious not to say the wrong thing. Therefore I say, I mean it was Austria, from a village, and I understood the kind of thinking is as it was demanded, or it still had been demanded in the network. I was allowed to a little bit participate, but I never legally was part of it. My mother said, do not bound yourself legally. Also verpflichte dich nicht. Because I have something for you. And it was then known he's still free. But I thought I'm free. Hopefully the next daycare mother and father, no, I didn't think that way. I trusted my mother is good. You're dependent on good parents, and with children, and this was of course the thinking of the Western style. With children it is that, also mit Frauen und Kindern macht man das nicht. Also wenn jetzt zum Beispiel Konfrontation ist. With women and children you don't do as you do with men if there's a confrontation. And it had been then, because of respect to others, that I really understood I had protection, and it was the British as well. Therefore, me saying my mother did not want to have something like a follow of the legally of the British. It was she wanted to have something in this part of the world. And I thought it would have been something like a Wissenschaftsgesellschaft, something like a science assembly. This had been in the earlier days, and this was a bonding of merchants, of science people. But it could well be something else, and that was open. This had been open, and then I myself have been at the library. I want to say it is a thing developing. Hopefully it is still recording. Yesterday it had stopped somewhere in the middle. Therefore I uploaded 2 parts. Something was there. And then I thought people expected too much. I really thought, okay, there had been help for the princes, for the king's families as well. I was not too much pleased that I was offered, but it was only in pre-talks offered a position, and later I should give it then to someone else. I did not like the idea too much to build something up, and I don't know if it is still possible, but it had been the idea. And there had been always been nobility clubs, not too much of it, but interesting people, and I was skeptical. But then, for me it was clear, and for others as well, for my mother as well, but not for everyone, this was a thing where the model of Great Britain, if there should be something to be followed. And the model, as I understood it, I don't know if it is officially that way, is that it is not that important what party is there, but it is rather to look that it is healthy. And I really had been asked, and it is now for me of course embarrassing. I asked back, could I do it? I even asked, is there an ancestry? And the other looked and said, this I can't say to you, you ought to know yourself. And it had been embarrassing. What ancestry? Karl, is that regarded an ancestry? Because if people expect position, that is something like giving new role modeling. It is not you yourself, it is a whole system. It is like talent, support. It is like networking, giving possibilities. And this is now, hopefully this is now seen, what it is. 22nd, Sunday, 23rd February. And it is not to show me in a good light. I'd like to do so. My mother would not have been very pleased to show weakness, but for me it is something I now understand. I saw all the time. I saw weakness, but I was never after it not to look deeper. Yes, indeed, I learned from people who were after the peak of their success, behind the mountaintop. And it had been, I think at the day I heard it, I never understood, it had been the bases, the grounds, the foundations of knowledge, physics, medicine, and chemistry, yes, of course, as well, and other stuff. And to understand the basics, the only thing you need is someone who is understanding it himself or herself. And this was the thing I now understand people were looking for, to have someone who is giving initiation for the youth. I never thought I could do it. It is not, but it is not for me to decide if it is possible. It is a thing you work on, and then it is, of course, dignity not to have too much critique. There have been very successful programs. I want to say that I was not looking for it, but there had been a question why the people had been that successful in the army, not in necessarily, yes, in the special forces. This is not the picture I showed. It is something that is very old, and it had not been in place anymore. There is remembrance with it to the network that spans from Japan to Portugal and beyond, over the continent and beyond, Asia, of course, and so on. This is, by the way, I'm now showing you pictures, the emblem of this crossroads city, Bratislava. And there it had been a little bit, there's a camera now correcting, two cameras. This I want to show you. It's overlay. The camera is on the left side, and the other, as you can imagine, is pointing to the desktop. It is only to give you an idea. I was raised without pictures. I was not persuaded too much seeing a picture. There had not even been a photograph of the role models on the wall. I don't know if it had been the way, if it is good or not, but it had been the way. The persuasion came from my understanding that there had been respect and missing. And the missing of the old ones, not only of Fritz Johann, but of the others. It is not something I want to hide, that there had been really quality people not being remembered for unknown reasons. As maybe the reason is known, it is then in a box. And then I heard the complaint, but you cannot answer it by then doing some appraisal. Yes, Mr. Rühmann, he was in the so-called Middle Germany, eastern parts of the political system. And he said he can hardly bear it to live in the Western. I don't know what exactly had been the reason, but people had changed. And this is not too hard to understand. If you are wounded, then you're ridiculed, then your bank account is full, and people think, no, it is not possible, and therefore I do not want to be in the Red Cross and heal wounds. That, but I did so. If you meet someone, you're talking about it. I was in China. He was working with glasses, optical glasses, and he asked, "How is it now?" And then he said something I do not know exactly. He was very precise. Saying so, it better say what is 100% sure. Therefore, I say, I hope it is right. He said, I did not know. I thought you had been one of us. I've understood it is I understood it is exceptional, and I had people there who said yes, he had already been in the US. He was not having the experience himself before the inside of a civil society, the being arrested and being consolated, you will only come. Yes, I heard it. I don't like the idea it happened. But it had been. And I cannot change it, but talk about it as it had been. This is the least. And criminals are there, but sometimes you don't know. Those are victims. And it was had been a plane crash. And I learned, because it is not clear how the position of my parents had been, the connection. There had been some acquaintance, but maybe even more. If it had been my mother herself who had been rescued because she was having temperature on the scale, fever. Of course, I thought, oh, this is dishonest, but is it? To write on the papers he's not being able to be transported, and then looking for a way to... And then he said, that little I can help. Yes, you're having a list of people, and you know there's something going on, and the right way is to go to the camp to be transported. This is a shock every time hearing about it. And then too little help. But at least I was glad he could help, and then or he was daring to do so. But then Mama said he was that sick because of having had too much work and too little sleep. His urine was being of color. Mama, the little daughter, and she was having a good puppy, she said. Fati, she said, exactly that. Understood. Mama was from somewhere else, but it was not communicated. And this was as it had been. People, if your own forefathers do not want to talk about something, those don't do it. Therefore, it is really, I hope you understand, I'm not in the character to say it is honesty, and you say it honest. If you say honestly, I say this, then the other things are then less honest. Therefore, I'd like to have asking back how it was, because sometimes there's sarcasm, but not what this is concerned. Sarcasm, thinking about but it is not possible if you have it and you see the losses others had, and then some being glad to be alive. There came a man back from South America, and I had rather not a good feeling, because I said maybe after that a long time it is possible the reaction had been that the others, yes, and I do not want to say too much, rather that it was both sides had worked on it. Therefore, it is a holy friendship, but nevertheless, he helped the friends. Now, those had already paid too much and being exploded, and then some boxes to Palestine, as it had been said, and but those his friends would have helped. And then there's a secret. There's a secret. My mother was very reluctant to say, but I asked, did some came back in disguise? She said, and this was then, you see it, thinking about what is good to say, not what is allowed, but what is a good thing to say. There had been a critique, why did those people fight for the German Wehrmacht? There had been entführt a man at the airport. It had been still dangerous to talk about it. I heard it mentioned, and then you yourself have the feeling not to ask too much. But in this case, my mother, as a mama, I have two mothers, this is not my choice. It is a doctor's miracle. And I thought, why did they do it? I was nearly dead to put a child, as it was for emergency, otherwise I would be stillborn. It is possible. And Mama then had to lie down, and her legs were hurting. And then I was born, and not more was mentioned. And then what you think about is nightmare. I only know it was not said. It is like a mother saying, oh, don't talk. No, not even don't talk, but you understand? A mother having made breakfast, and then a child is think about school, and not this again. It was pushed aside. And then even someone came and said, now you are that grown. And she came from South Africa. Therefore, I'd like to know, could this have been one of the nurses? But South Africa, I thought a long time I could have been born in a hospital there. But why did I feel bonded to the American people? Maybe those are freedom lovers, and I'm too. I don't know if you can feel it. And then I could say something. Hopefully it was a help, but it is not to be mentioned to have a good grade, but I now understand, I'm obligated to say so. The German-rooted had been still a little bit discriminated in Canada and Australia, but understanding it is not to take revenge. Not everyone who is German-rooted is necessarily of the kind of quality people, and I don't like too much quality demand. I had to learn that, yes, everyone has to learn. If you have a bicycle and it is not good enough, this is, of course, a country with Mercedes-Benz and so on. There was development, and then it was hard work and better year after year. And then this is the countryside of networks, of crossroads. I heard that Great Britain, and it is United Kingdoms, sometimes, yes, it is great, but some don't like it, because those had colonies, but it is not for me to be on one side. I saw the people, and those had the disadvantage that the goods are transported not that easily overseas, and then there had been the tunnel. And as you can imagine, a large project is over many tables and free will, counseling and looking into it. And I never found out how many did so. And I felt honored that my mother had that respect she was asked, and the results have been good. She said people want to get to know her counselor, and luckily she was having another one. It was weighing out, and I was asking like a little Kundschafter, like a little man running from one to the other, and there had been plastics, a new development, and there had been books, very new ones, the latest scientific results at the library. Or you could ask someone, and it is a very interesting thing, but it is sad at the same time. There had been many people moving away, and then the chain of supply was broadened. Yes, there had been talents, and the nobility families who could afford it were doing something against the inherited diseases. I don't think that stuttering is being inherited. I don't think so. Maybe this is because of the, as it was said, difficult birth, and because of the many other problems. You do not put yourself in the middle of the interest, and those I do not want to have in the middle, but from time to time I thought about it. Do not complain too much. Those I felt had been like victims of tension, but it had been an accident that can happen. Maybe better never fly with a plane. And this had been for a very long time the line I followed, not to fly with a plane, because I overheard it. But how did my mother... I want to know. Because you can't be two people. This was the first thing that opened the knot. That opened... This is the real passport. She did not like it, but it was necessary. And this is, now I conclude, the first thing to understand. Till recently, I never thought you are one and you could have different identities. This was, I think, I don't know where I read it the first time, you have something like an account. And a name, and then there could be another name. I think it was with an artist. But this is not the most of value. It is, of course, with maybe possibilities. But first of all, I need grounds. But not too much, please. Not too much at once. There was expectation, not from others, but it was a chain of expectations. My mother had been in the expectation to help China. And she said it was a thing of her raising father. Later I thought, oh, why is my mother afflicted? Because the father was having made a contract, the raising father. He was a kind of part-time father. But it was strange. Yes, it was because of her education. I had been in a family as well, but you cannot give the father the same rights. But maybe it is not every time that being considered. Nevertheless, there had been expectations. But it is strange. The passing on of bucks. There is no buck. This is the first thing. Pass on the blame. You cannot say so. There is expectation in Karl that it was not fulfilled, therefore Fritz has to, and then an expectations from Elsie, and then maybe from the, this is a thing I overheard. And the British are not one, not, as it is said, one party. I had conversations with people I liked from the ideas, and then others I felt, hopefully not due Hanford, that had been with all the tricks, all the possibilities, in German Verfahrenstricks. You make contracts and then you have a loophole that you yourself you are getting out of it, but the other can't. And Due Hanford had been not that evil. It had been for me something I thought, why do people do that? With me it had been like gambling. I don't like it. I'd rather had the line to have, for example, stocks in the reliable market, and not more than maybe 10%. Others in the risky, but maybe exploding fields of merchandise. And I think it has to do with the industrialization and with the possibilities of the networks, the crossroads. as we say in German, wir haben es nicht nötig. There is quality and there is good stuff to sell, but there's not an excuse for others to have, for example, but I'm not wanting to break something open or to move it. I see the third party laughing, that are the bystanders. Two are having a quarrel and the third one is taking it. Therefore I have several parties myself. Maybe I'm the fourth one and saying, no, this from the start was not to be distributed. And this had been equality as well, reliability. And this does not mean that everyone in the network had been the kind of people, and it is not that I see the British lady representing whole Great Britain or United Kingdom and the more. It is I think where there is the desire, but then luckily others said no, this is not to be taken advantage of. There is no lost war for the individual. This really had been a war of the parliament, and I was always wondering why it was not known that to set a sign, was it true or was it only rumor? Wilhelm II had been at the Wilhelmshöhe near Kassel. I don't know if this, yes, it was said this is important to set a sign. But what could he do? Nothing. He was shocked that the war was coming from a relative. And I do not want to break that all open, but only to remark that I had not even support. I was not even willing to take a side. What do? You are with Americans, and then D-Day is discussed, and then there is a defender, and I cannot say to him he did wrong. What would I have done? Now, luckily, I was not there. The Americans were wanted, were needed. This was totally, since the war against Russia, totally desperation. And this was not me alone. No, I did say nothing. I was a child. Because of all this aftermath, I was not even interested too much in the war. I was shocked, having heard that there were soldiers in the family. Those had a civil basis as well. I think half of it was civil. Those developments had been for carts and for cannons, for example, Fahrgestelle, for example. And then, of course, Zündnadelgewehr had been good help to protect their own soldiers. And you cannot look at history without saying you cannot change the times. But then better having a good military. Yes, of course. But I would have changed the whole if I had been the ability, and no one has. Therefore, it is good teaching to be based, earthbound. And then not everyone has the possibility to go to convent, to be behind the Klostermauern, behind the big protection, is it? The large protection, the good protection, yes, it had been a protection, it was respected. I had been in a cloister, in a convent, and I was shocked that others, and this was not playing, this was, but I couldn't change those in the surrounding, those who were anti-church, those had been still in the Reformation idea, and then Calvinists against Lutheran, you know the whole thing. And then Hus, the Baptists were after each other, and I did not, if it was serious, did not ridicule any. Of course, at school, I was not always wanting to be an outsider. But in reality, it had been. It was very deep, and others said it is religious, and then it is philosophical, and we don't like it, but it is the country, at least the countryside of the Dichter und Denker. And I had experienced respect, even being a child, and of course people had maybe a little pity on children from Germany, overlooking things. I can remember that someone took me, and I went to a doctor in the United States. But then afterward, someone said maybe, or hopefully, it is not taken advantage of. Of course, it wasn't. But people were suspicious, had been suspicious. This is important that I heard the side notes and what was between the lines. And now, being myself adult, I want to prevent it. I was glad there had been, yes, let me say, the Jews from America who said, we do not want the overseas people to be, let me say, pampered, being supported too much, but I couldn't do, and I do not want to do anything. It is not my business. And as a child, it was not directly, yes, sometimes it is that you understand, people understand, you understand, and it is between the lines. And like with the professors in the wood-paved room with the glass, das ist wie ein Erker, like an Erker in German. It is not a glass house or a greenhouse, but it is something where you sit near the abyss. Not near the abyss, but it is on a mountaintop, and then you can look. But that time, very far, it was with fog. And those, you understand immediately, are clever enough. It was enjoyment, not, those did not gave me sugar bread. People don't do it. Professors don't do it. It is thinking about the topic, it had been really, if psychological science should be fully have acknowledgement. And I myself afterward had thought much about, not too much, but from time to time about it. And thinking back, I can still remember the feeling that I was envious. Those I had not met before. But you cannot change it. You know you are rather having more than others, and to have the best quality. Is it too much? But no understanding, I cannot fully feel like the son of Victor Louise. If then this would have been forfeiting quality. Yes, of course. I don't like the idea. I still know the high demand goes sometimes to strict judgment, but to judge is not easy. There had been the Mrs. who had been a mathematical teacher, and I thought she couldn't understand as well if she had been with a task, because there had been other problems preventing me to have full training possibility, not the best health. There had been traveling, and there had even been an opposition for myself, because I felt an unnecessary outsider. There had been, for example, an invitation to the parties after school. And sometimes I go after feeling, and this time I did, understood. It is a thing where I rather have the enjoyment of reading books or be at home than follow this invitation, because it had been, I cannot give you it scientifically, in a kind I did not like. My mother had already warned me about the dangers of being manipulated, and this was ongoing. She did not never say being manipulated. She rather said, I have expectations. It is your decision. And I then rather asked, before saying anything, what my father's measurements would have been. He was called grandfather because of his age, and my mother did not know if he then, because of his age and the necessary dignity toward him, yes, of course, in the open, it was another time, but I was asking, and he was having quality measurements for recreation as well, and this was not quality, I thought. Quality recreation, for example, would have been a good theater playing, and this wasn't. It was games was, I only heard it, I never was there, never. Because if people want to push me, back then, I'd rather asked if it was demanding by school law and others, and my mother was sitting at home, Oma was alone, and then I was stubborn enough not to go there. But now, thinking about it, it was a thing maybe I wouldn't do. I would look, but it was not at the time. My mother rather said, be careful. And I thought, is it the devil that is setting one trap after the other? Yes, alcohol was a danger. But she said it is also that people tell you things and you're not able to decide and not able to understand. It was not that, yes, it was the danger not being communicated but being felt. If people said it was morally, it was, let them talk. My father went into a church to be alone, to think, and maybe to have radio somewhere below the bench. You had to do things in this kind of withstand or resistance, otherwise you wouldn't do. You wouldn't go into a sacred building and do things. But it was that dangerous that he even had to disguise. My mother said she had to disguise as Fritz Johann at a time. I don't think so. She would have done otherwise. It is that you did what you could, and it was really that way. And I'm sad that others were not able. Those were willing to say things, but it was dangerous. And then I now understand that it really had been, even not being communicated that way. And then it is ridiculous if I think about the possibility that, for example, people would want to put me under pressure. I should have said more. People could try so, or to pass a buck. It really had been that after the war there was dangers, life-threatening dangers. And I do not want to blame it. I can't blame it on the West or on the East. I heard in the East that there was said, we want to follow what is right, but the West is not willing to talk with us. And there was a little child. Of course, I was not, this was later. It was before school. Where is it? Therefore, the strange things happening, and the strange, I never had been evangelizing, but people put me in a religious box. Of course, I could have done so. I thought, then it is now there, and people know where to look for answers, but you won't find it if you have already the answer. The ridicule on television about believers, I don't know if it had been there that often. It was not that dangerous, I could say something against it, but I understood people had grounds. I overheard that others were saying things that are not possible. You can't have advantage after advantage. First of all, it is a thing that is regulating the family affairs, and then the friendship affairs. And even in business, if you can trust someone, it is easier. But I was looking into the disadvantages. Yes, there had been a longer time where I thought because of his belief he was weak. I thought so. He had been weak. And then he did not come back from the war. There was war then, even among groups. And this hopefully is known, that then there was legal quarrel, kind of it, contracted quarrel among the losers as well as among the winners. And I often thought it is losing because of the earthquakes in society for everyone. But this is me now, the 70th, and I had a little bit the asking, why don't you do anything? And I did something, and I was asked, and I was having trouble. I went to high-ranking politicians, and I said, if it is true what foreigners say, this could give quite a people something. And now I understand why should I do so? It is like offering something and then paying the effort myself. But it was not the idea. It was the idea to look. But then one dream after the other went into thin air. First my mama, she was having the dream she could have been a princess, and it was with I think a DNA that was compared to the wrong one. Then a dream only. And this is a shock with Papa. What was it with Westphalia? He did not know, someone else said. And then he said, this is for you, but me asking, I got the answer, there's nothing. Therefore it is first of all a thing to know what really happened there, and this should be possible. The things that are like it is usual, working as parts of something. This of course then is not available to others anymore, but this is not en gros. This is not in a whole, you can't do it. This is the thing where it is that much work, even theoretically. I don't like the idea. But how could it be done? Then to start. First of all, Mama. And this hopefully without passing the buck to someone that is then having a disadvantage, and this could fast grow into political, you understand? That someone then is guilty. I think it is hopefully not one or two. It is prioritized, I think, privately. This is the first question. Is it privately? I think so. But it is part, of course, and there's a group who asked. And I said, this isn't there anymore. People say it was a dream, had been a dream. But those who said so, and I believed it, I'm still believing, did not know or could not know. Therefore, it is a good thing that the internet is there. Me having had some information, I saw the pictures, and then, of course, this is a thing that hindered the making of pictures, but it is not wrong. She had been Duchess, in the position of a Duchess. Therefore, I do not want to pass a buck there. No. But it is a thing maybe others don't like. She was a Duchess and her children are descended from a Duchess. But there's then, of course, my mother available for me. Mama, if that is true, having the ancestry toward Donatus. And my mother, the elder, she's there with a pass, with black and white symbolic out of a real passport. It is done. She was the nurse, or someone helping with the baby. Yes, I believe it. She was liking to help with children, and then to help them find a new working field in merchandise, in the banking system. This is very important. It should be honored. There had been a bank that had been supporting a hospital, and I learned about it because my mother was looking as a detective if the loans, quite a sum of noblemen had been living on, the bank loans, had been in right proportion, and she was not pleased because the bank was nearly bankrupt. I don't know because of what. Not enough paying back. It was a hard time. Nobility had been pushed out of the official governing, and then taxes were no longer being in their pocket, and then many lived out of bank loans, and those bank loans had to be checked if it was right that, for example, farmland was worth 100,000 or only 20,000. And I have quite a story to tell, but only legendary. I don't know if it is... yes, of course, it should be in the papers. That then there were shots fired, and my mother and Uncle Herbert, he was the only protection and not enough. And then the official police said, this is private. Maybe it is, maybe not. Yes, there had been unwillingness to pay back. And this could be, of course, a big hindrance. But I'm not going there with a gun. And I think no one will lose his home. Not by force. This is true. That then shots were fired. They said, nobleman, this had been the home, for example, this has been a home, this is only I think, and this is now really virtually in a party basement where we are now having half a liter of beer and you are interested in it. And this is artificial, me, a detective, saying it had been as it had been legendary told, and it is, among us, it is, to help the doctors, it is artificial, my free right to do it as an artist. It is something doctors do. Then it is said it could be illness, that someone is saying that noblemen are firing shots at bank officers, and this never at my mother. And this, of course, is sarcasm. It is sarcasm. No, it is reality. It had been reality. Some days ago I learned that if you do not finish your sentence, this could be regarded as an illness. If you heard about it, you won't trust me anymore. But this, of course, please ask someone in the field of psychiatry if he is pleased that stuff is even mentioned. I'm quite tired, and I said before, I can only in an artificial mode, in a science mode, I couldn't do so. I would then say scientifically it is hard stuff. I could do so if I found documents, and if I found them, I had the problem that people would say those are forged. Therefore, if people want to solve the problem, had there been a bank giving loans to the hundreds or thousands of European and worldwide noblemen, it is known. People know it. And then, of course, I know my mother would be diplomatic. A bank does not go there, and then you have nothing. And force someone out of the home, then you have the field and the old broken castle. Yes, indeed, old broken castles had been described and then even approved by then, of course, false specialists as being worth a lot, And then there was too much loan given. And then people had to send someone, and it was my mother. And could I believe it? We are now in the party basement. Of course you can believe it. Did I believe as a child? I don't know. It was before falling asleep. It was something as a description how it had been. A dangerous time. The moral was not that good anymore. Nobility was not having had the income from taxes. Maybe even rent was not paid. Why pay the nobleman? He is not having police anymore. And this is history. And I'm not hysterical to say so that I cannot prove it. But why prove it if it is known? And I want to know. I can remember I did not see the noble woman. I don't know if it was a baron or duke or graf or whatever. But those had been numerous. And those were respected. And I never thought my mother, yes, of course, no, I understand. I thought she was respected. Yes, of course, she could earn her respect. I never heard someone address her with a nobleman, never. I once had, yes, it was an asking, but merely a command. If someone asked who would live here, then my mother said, someone asked if Vicky was living there, had been or is still living there. She said, and I saw a letter, this name, this was a nickname. This had a nickname, but this is no proof that my mother is Victoria Louise. It is only proof that she had been the nickname. It is of interest. Of course, there is some financial interest involved. But it had been more with others. But then others had to live on something. And I overheard that someone said he wants to make it right. But then the children said, we already sold our inheritance. It had been not ridiculous, but I heard things that I thought, oh good, that I am not part of them. No interest in each other, only with figures. How much is the painting worth? You found something in your payment, we have a contract that we part it, or 10% for everyone, if there are 10 different families. And it's important that I don't have such a contract. I have the obligation, that is more than that, to do it right. But this is not for politicians to decide. Not for politicians. I'd rather ask someone, yes, I mean it, from Russia, who's honest, than a politician who already knows where to put the money in what hole. Yes, because you do not need, yes, I really mean it, a good St. Petersburg man or woman that is renowned for being righteous, loving. What is he or she doing? Not wanting to do it because it is hard work. You look into it, and sometimes it is easy. In other cases, the nobleman was tricked, and he is still expecting stocks of a factory. I heard things that someone said, this was not given to me. And of course, he wanted then others to correct it. You can't do it if you do not even know it, but starting with it. And this was a topic in the 80s, in the 90s. And then I now understand some things others sorted out. But why did my mother expect things that would then be more than enough to build quite something? Because I had it worse. People were dead. And I was shocked hearing about accidents. This is really true. Hearing about accidents. And then I learned, do not give others the idea that you push them. That's important. I do not want to give others the idea that I push them. I do not want to give others the idea that I give it lightly, but this is difficult. But it was exactly the kind of working I saw. Having then something, and then have your own group, and being in the same defense of righteousness, and this righteousness is built on different pillars. It is contracted. Sometimes it is what is necessary to sometimes to fill in what but this of course is then only possible to do in a peaceful way if you are respected and trusted. And if you have not the ugly injustice, of course it is not just to get the idea the government is pre-building something. I do not want to go too much into it, only mention it. It is important that if something is missing, exactly the law of the day where it was taken is to be the basis, and then you are there and you are counting how many fish had been in the lake. Some did it. I do not want to ridicule it. How many trees had been on the mountain in the year when it was falsely going into wrong hands? Yes, mathematically, but I'm not that fast. Following any calculation, not that fast. With Mama it had been that she had been in Hesse, or Hesse, or Hessen, International Hesse, otherwise Hessen. And there she said, let us dream I'm a princess. Therefore my mother had the dream, and every one of you could get a castle. But for me it is now something, understand? Mama was building on dreams. No one is giving you a castle. No one is doing that. You know what that is? A castle is a small village. Not only one house, many houses. Is it with modern infrastructure or not? this is really a dream. Mama did say so. My mother, the elder, she was on the level of stock market, and I don't understand those are to be trusted. Otherwise, you understand, it is, therefore, this is sure if there is a basis, but it is a problem. Do not pass a buck. This must have started 1800, at least 70. Then there had been frozen accounts. Then it is even more complicated. You don't take a thing without asking to pass it on. It is not a question. You don't do it. If you're trustworthy, you do not take something and say, oh, okay, it is now with me. It is always a question. For example, the land in colonies. Some were bought from the owners that had it before. Then you cannot take it and then leave it. You're looking, and the same I was trained to look, but it is not to give it to someone. Maybe it is yours, but then what you do with it is important. There had been the expectations of land development, and this is something very demanding, and if I say we did it, that does mean I didn't do it. It was a we, a feeling. There is a group of developers. A good man had always been behind the centers of ethical thinking. Microsoft was really sought after in a garage. I did not sneak into a garage, but it was the idea, where do the people meet who are thinking about their businesses after school? And then I had a conversation, not only one, but many, with my mother. Why is it not that easy, for example, in this part of the world, to find a network of children? You need at least 2 or 3 who are following an idea, and then those are supported, and if it is not working out, you supported something that then will work out some other way. It is always like a mission. Yes, it was. It is no secret that people are counseling. Linux is something that had a different idea than DDR. Was it PS2 or what? I don't know the names. I know my friends. Naming, I mean, I forget names. And then there had been, of course, the systems for special electronic calculation machines. And this is a thing that is always before, but do not expect anything. This is not working out. The first thing you have to do is plan it and then publish it somewhere in the paper. And the good people are there where the families are. Therefore, who could help now? because this had, for a long time now, since my mother first communicated to me, different ambitions. It is schooling, pedagogical. This is important. Without it is not possible. But the other things are not possible without a family system, and this does not mean believers, but believers believe in things not seen, and then there are expectations. A believer knows how much effort it is, and I think those who have a history are those people now into the modern system where now I do not want to take it that way. It would look like me being the senior and the others being criticized. If you had been in the house building, you did it by hand, and then you're now at the table in your office and others do it. So of course but the best is if you had been in every part of the building system. Working even with the building of a street system. The water and the sewer system, of course energy, and then a bunker, a basement. In Switzerland those have had a security demand, and then many bunkers, many protection rooms. No, I did not lose the thread. I lost the idea this is artificial. You understand? This is an artist's way to believe the things as if the fairy tales could go to the point to be really with a good ending. I'm not at the point where Hans im Glück is changing something into a gold lump. I'm not doing that. This is rather on many legs. The first leg, as I said, was pedagogical. I learned from those from of old, and this had been before the Hitler regime. This was in itself a necessary correction with unbelief. How could those believers work with a government and discriminate with religious arguments? This is shocking. In the Third Reich, I hope it was not Entschuldigung. It was of religious arguments. It is now 11 o'clock. I was awake at night time, and I want to make it as authentic as possible. Therefore, it is with many scars, and it is a thing that remembers me that I experienced myself, the rubbish after World War II, there had been still many broken houses. Really, in Berlin, I found this. There had been in 1968 even a street that was still rubbish. And I saw this, I have not seen it, but I was shocked that I was not very long on this earth in 1968. I can remember there had been, I think, a telephone call. Something dangerous had happened. It was a visit and it must have been an asking with my mother. I can remember someone had been shot, and one said it was defense. It was rightly done, one said, by the bodyguards to defend the noble visitor. And then others were saying it is not allowed to look too deep into it. It could have to do with the East-Western conflict. But it is strange that I now remember that as a very little one, I witnessed my mother being asked. And the asking was to help to de-escalate. It is really that I hope there are many people who do it righteous, because it was not a solution to pass the buck. It was not a solution, and afterward, after years, it was said it is important to work on the name. It is important that the name of my parents had never been at stake, except with rumors. And this, of course, is not to be tolerated. And this is English now. It is boring. It is. It is boring. It is, so to speak, in my party basement. Why? Because I feel under strict forbiddenness. I feel it. It is never to be openly confessed, never. That there is forbidden. Or a forbiddenness, it is an artificial word. It is not that someone said so. It is a whole circumstance. Always, when addressing, there by chance is a doctor's help. The doctor's help is by chance, because it is not necessary. You do not need something to calm you down. Yes, I would need someone to wake others up, but I have nearly given it up to ask those who had been at the home. I need to warn them. Others, because others did not even understand that political, very hot questions had been asked to my mother. She was not wanting to be asked, and it was to help. I now feel this is like asking for the sake of your patriot belief, please help, even we push you. Yes, this is now blowing up out of proportion. It really had been the case. My mother helped, and at other times as well, and I would do so. But is it good? For the name of what? And I have no individual to blame. Therefore, it is necessary to have schooling, and for that task there is in this country a kind of tax, GZ. It is the duty to pay to have quality television. But quality television, I mean television that is scientific. Bildungsfernsehen, das ist wirklich dadurch dann auch möglich. It is then, because those are being financed, possible. But it is not in this case because the grounds are not there. Therefore, this is too early to make it scientific. And then there is a prioritization, priority. What is more important? I think it is first not to expect too much, not to open wounds. I cannot help that people did not experience it. There had been people who asked, will I be there to see it? And I now fear a little bit that people had the expectation to have a correction of a kind I cannot even, I could imagine, but do not want to address. If there is a stealing, for example, or to give dignity back, this could be done, of course, but there are many wounds. There have been the Hürtchenwald, and I had the understanding people wanted to forget it. Then there had been soldiers from other countries, and it is now, hopefully, a remembrance place. Hopefully people do not really want to forget. Learn out of history. Learn out of history. It is important that my stuttering is not that bad. I am now trained not to make it too much a hindrance. And you first have to learn to talk openly about it. I don't like too much. Therefore, it is no sickness. It is nothing to talk about, to understand it. It is there. And to train, it is less a hindrance. But what is with the others? I feel uncomfortable that the renowned leaders, the pillars of their state system, some of them are no longer on this earth. Yes, even foreign countries had expectations. And then I learned the interests of their finance directors were different, had been different. And I cannot say what it was about, because there is not one side only. There's not one side only. And then there had been curious questions. And the answer had been, then of course is negotiated that there is not earthquakes in any system. But this is not a promise, it is common sense. You cannot make a law out of it. If you make a law out of it, expect something fishy. A law, for example, of the kind is that the chain has to be free of children's work. Where is the trick? The definition, for example, what a child is, of course, and what is to be counted among the chain. Is it the sidelines, the byways? It is common sense not to have any illegal things there, but there had been the so-called blood diamonds, and they said so-called uncle from Canada, he was looking through his portfolio, not to have it there and then to make it official, to separate it. I learned not only this, but other very important information. He is the one who founded or co-founder of Bloomberg. And that is the level I'm talking about all the time. The modest people you won't recognize as being leaders. Of course, you can recognize it as a leader. This is no hindrance, but what I learned is it is better not to be in the limelight. But for me it is, since I addressed the BRESLAU friends, I'm not only feeling endangered, but it is a killing of my name to give me a medical diagnosis. If you look into it, it is a thing, if you have it in the papers only, you won't consider me for anything. I had been in the night shift of his senior's residence, and there I was a witness. I don't know if I was had been privately there, that there came someone to assess the level of care an elderly was needing. It had been for the insurance company, a task for the insurance company. For example, to pay 5,000 or 8,000 or 2,000 for the care of an elderly, of a sick man or woman. And it is important that I looked and said, you please, doctor, better go, maybe 10 meters, 20 meters, please go and look at him. I was not in the position to say so. I said because I was bold. But I was angry as well. He was looking at a file. And that was a file of that kind that was different than the original. And he went there and he came angry back, and that was all. He said, I do nothing. Now I lost half an hour. I really had the idea he was angry at me, that I addressed him, do not do it according to the file, but go to the man or woman himself. I don't know why I said so. Of course, I had already looked at the paper, and it wasn't, I don't know if it was that ugly, but sometimes there is a change of medicine. Sometimes there is nothing, but the strange circumstance that maybe there was a flu or something else, but there is a difference I cannot explain. A woman, for example, she was quite fit, and in the file she was having not enough capability to speak or to say anything of sense. And as a layman, I'm no doctor, but as a layman, I feel myself obligated to say so, that someone is obligated to look at that what I consider a fault. And with me, it is strange that no one is looking at the possibility that I am doing this out of responsibility. And this is not for one side. You know, Elizabeth, I fear the idea that someone is starting it again, and then me as a detective, I then would again ask if she was maybe having problems by her own people, and then I would say, no, it is not her own people. She is not in a group. Or was she? And this is detective thinking. And this is, I think I was surrounded with detectives. And this is no joke. To detect something, that is for all. A teacher is detecting a child, where to support, or how to change something. And if you're looking for a new method to bake cookies, you're detecting a possibility. There had been the Quark-Sahnetorte in Breslau, and it was the rumor, this is something that is built out of it is not ice cream, it is a milk, and then there is something from a lemon. But I don't know exactly how it is done, but it was something new. And this was, I think, from a competition that was openly praised. It was said it was in Silesia, but maybe it was somewhere else. And then there was something new detected. And it is with other later industrial things as well. And if you look for a replacement, if there is a chain of supply no longer possible, this is now with the battery-driven cars. People are detecting and doing it, and this is long ongoing. Hopefully there is something being done. I think so. Without being seen. Unfortunately, other things did not come out that way. Hopefully, you are doing something, but not hinder me. And please do not go the way I suspected, that other countries have a belief in their nobility system and therefore are not wanting to confess anything, and this is not necessary. To confess because things that are going on I did not knew before. I did not know before. And Mama maybe did not know. And my mother, even my mother, she, I think, was trusting that it was done, and I think it is still working. And then, of course, maybe the false idea, I like to forfeit something. I'd like to be a poor man. This stupid stuff had been a rumor, like I had wanted to go into a convent. And of course I contradicted, but this is not possible, that at a larger scale. But I'm thinking like a detective. Is it possible? Please think with me, but do not come to the conclusion only because the specialists say so. It isn't. It is not possible. It is a false idea that the state knows everything. The state is relatively young. The state is keeping out of things. This is rather, I think, something that is not a problem. It is a problem if you trust the wrong ones. You cannot trust someone who has a possibility, for example, to narrow people from knowing what's going on. Maybe others don't know that I'm looking. It is possible it had been a system, illegally of course today, it has been a system for security people that those would not blow secrets in the open. Those knew that those had been protected. For example, engineers knew it. Those take care that my postage is sure. This could be negative, that he could not send out documents. But this would be illegal, because it is all with contracts. And this is really for you to understand, this is a thing I do therefore it isn't medical. I'm fully aware that I'm on my stage. I'm not needing to know it. To others, this was an error. I'm not in the need of saying it. It is knowledge for others that if you're a detective, and even if there is no Mr. Watson, you can ask, oh, Mr. Watson, what would the suppose I'm the criminal. you go into a character, and I'm now in the character, but if it is the case, please be aware, it could be even better. If you like the idea that there's much work. It could be even better than that. Maybe there is still land to till. I once heard there is land that had been bought in South America. Someone else said he does not know if this is still valid. And then it was me who said, who bought it? It is not automatically that a contract that was done by someone else. And was it conditioned? And if it is of a little bit larger scale, then of course, you can't do it otherwise. There are streets to be built. I do not want your mouth to be watery, that you expect a thing. But you understand that then people, if there's a possibility to hinder it, and those have an advantage, if it is not done, maybe can already hinder it by suppressing. But this would be illegal. Therefore, my suspicion is, possible first, as a detective, Watson, how could this be hindered? Your telephone line is redirected. This, of course, is criminal. Yes, very much. The freedom of information and postal demands. This is Federal Republic of Germany, and this is good that the state has special extra demands to fulfill. It had been as well a border state in the Cold War. This does not make it legal, but it had been the case that there had been tampering with postal messages and so on. Therefore, this could as well be done with the internet. And nearly everything goes through the internet. Of course, it is not fully possible that there's hindrance. I got some feedback that there is not knowledge or not the possibility to answer, or it is not the right entity. Therefore, I'm first of all looking, and I don't know, into the right facility. And this is not private. I did not know whom to ask. I cannot go to the private contracts. No. Contacts, it is no contract. Contact. I had been traveling. I cannot ask in the Philippines. This had been in a hotel. A meeting. I was there as a child. I had to stay at the hotel room. It was boring. This is nothing. This was traveling, and it wasn't. Then with other locations, it was not even seeing much of the country. It was with a plane, and then I understood it is sometimes dangerous. Then you stay at the hotel. Back then it had been. It is years ago. There is nothing I could ask, I think. And then at other places you can't. Therefore it is circumstantial evidence that is only on the sideline. And Mama asked for the acceptance, or was it more? And then it was only a dream, and it was embarrassing. For me it had been a dreamer. No, she wasn't, but it was said it wasn't true. How can you know at the age of not even 2 years old or 3 years old if your mother would make you princess or not? I don't know. Therefore it had been there. And my mother, she was not needing. No, it is. She was not needing to have an ancestry. She was, but she wasn't doing other things than I knew she did all the time. Therefore, I had not, as a child, the chance to. Therefore, this is strange, and it is not desperate. Looking for the right entity, I would never ask those who wanted to adopt me. This is ridiculous. I do not need an adoptive parent. This is ridiculous. I said, no, I won't replace my mama, and Oma not as well. And with Papa I said, do you want to get rid of me? Therefore it was off the table very fast. Then there had been someone who wanted to help me. It was in Sweden. And there was a child. What was it? It was at the time you are legally a child. It was a friendship that then died down. It was, as in German said, es war beim Sande verlaufen. No, I already tried to do so, but this seems to be somehow ridiculous. You cannot go back to an old friendship, and those have hundreds or thousands of acquaintances. Maybe not that of that kind, but it is a thing I do not want to make fun about. It was rather embarrassing. People were expecting me to study, and as some said, to have a career anywhere. And then it is not working out, and now it could look like me wanting to find excuses. Even my saying so that there could be intelligence hindrances, also illegale Nachrichtendienstbedrängung. Illegal, it is illegal, it is illegal, of course. I know that intelligence is not allowed to look into everything, but it is not known, therefore it is a suspicion that this then must be illegal. My mother once said, maybe they'll think because of her help for the building up of the Federal Republic, she could from time to time being, for example, followed. There really had been, my mother saying she feels being narrowed. Also in German, sie fühlte sich bedrängt. There I learned, or I thought that I learned, that from time to time it is legal to, for example, follow you I felt being followed, but it could be false suspicion. And I don't know how it came out. My mother, the elder, she had the acceptance that it could well be, but then it died down. Das ist noch seltsamer. Und da muss ich ganz klar sagen, this is now German. Ich muss das ja auf Englisch. This is now German to explain that I rather take English than I'm not that authentic, because I'm fed up. I now say it in German. Also ich habe natürlich nicht nur die Nase voll, sondern auch damals wurde schon geknurrt. Also geknurrt. Also das wurde schon gesagt, das gibt's doch gar nicht. Die müssen eine Auskunft geben. Also das gibt's doch gar nicht, dass man zum Beispiel auf eine Anfrage auch nicht erfährt, ob irgendeine Bedrohung da ist. Denn man kann mich doch nicht einfach hier unbemerkt behelligen. Denn meine Mutter fühlte sich auch schon mal bedrängt, weil das schon so lange her ist und weil das dann auch einfach Bedrängung, was heißt das? Ist ja jemand gefolgt auf der Straße? Ich hatte gedacht, das könnte so sein. Es sagten auch schon mal Leute, na, wagen Sie sich so alleine auf die Straße. Solche Töne sind gefallen. Das war bevor alle, nein doch, es waren schon ein paar Zuwanderer, aber das ist ausdrücklich eine Sache, bevor dann zuerst die Aussiedler kamen. Nicht, dass man denkt, das wäre jetzt irgendwie wegen anderer Kulturen. Das war innerdeutsch. Vielleicht waren das auch Ausländer, aber das spielte gar keine Rolle. Das Problem war, da war schon es, oder auch da war es schon etwas problematisch, dass meine Mutter Gehör fand. Und ich weiß, dass sie enttäuscht war, dass sie zu Alliierten gehen musste. Sie sagte, das ist so peinlich. Für das Ansehen der Bundesrepublik so schlecht. Dann war sie wirklich zu drei westlichen Botschaften gegangen und ausdrücklich nicht nach Russland. Weil sie wusste, dass die das eventuell ausnutzen können. Das ist wirklich so, dass ich zwar weiß, es müsste eigentlich jeder der Alliierten helfen, da gehört auch Russland dazu. Aber man kann das ausnutzen. Aber jetzt bin ich irritiert. Nur weil es heißt, Russland könnte das ausnutzen, heißt ja nicht, dass das andere nicht hätten ausnutzen können. Und ausnutzen heißt natürlich, also auch westliche ausnutzen heißt, dass man die Information einfach nicht löst, sondern vielleicht die Schwäche sogar noch ausnutzt. Und die Schwäche ist eindeutig, dass ich nicht weiß, warum die Kontakte abgebrochen sind. Es kann sein, die sind zu alt geworden, die Leute. This had been the excuse that many of the people had been too old. Therefore the contact died down or broke. But could it be that there was an intermingling, a man in the middle who took over? They had been with Papa. It was very sad that a woman stood there and she wanted to know why he broke up. The serious pen pal letter exchange. And Papa, he was shocked. He said, I thought you hättest mich sitzen gelassen. You broke it up. For me, it was not much explanation. Papa then was openly shocked, entsetzt. You could feel it, but he did not say too much. But then came out that his so-called siblings had thought this woman is nothing for Papa, and those took over. Those fetched the letter from the letterbox and answered as if it had been Papa, and this, I thought, would have then brought excuses. But I think nothing. How could others have the idea it was better for Papa not to have this pen pal? Girlfriend, I think. But maybe it was even more serious. Sorry, this English is not very good. But it is to the international to understand that in this part of the world, and this is especially for those who wanted to have a life somewhere else, ich kann ja deutlicher werden, die hier auch nicht mal leben wollten, 70er Jahre hier, diese Doppel, 2 Etagen, Familie, die fehlte dann. Meine Mutter sagte, die ist jetzt da hinter Australien oder in Kanada. Die wollten hier nicht mehr leben, weil sie wohl meinten, es ist woanders freier. Aber ich konnte hier eben nicht weg. It is especially to you to think about it and to understand the seriousness. And I don't know how you could help me and yourself, because this looks like something where I am counted. I don't know among whom. Because I learned, this is a suspicion, I learned that others play trick on each other. But with me this is not possible, and this is for quite a time that I want to clarify. It is not a wishful thinking, to clarify that I am not a member of anything. Even with this little out-of-church group, I was quite open and even aggressive. I'm not part of it, but could it be that there's something else? I'm not part of any emigration group. Did I say on a birthday party I'm part of a group? This wouldn't make me part of the group, because in the serious area, this then would of course be a contract with attorneys. And I did not follow the attorney in Baden-Württemberg. He wanted to make a contract for future options. Students do it with other students. I didn't. Maybe it wasn't good not to do it, but in fact I didn't. And now, being suspicious, Mr. Watson, of course, Mr. Watson, he was lunatic. Natürlich war nicht verrückt. But this is really, this schizophrenia is such a lovely word. If an artist is saying things that are crazy, it is of course a joke to say you're schizophrenic. Schizophrenisch. Weiß nicht, wie das so genau geht. Aber das ist natürlich Blödsinn. This is of course stupidness. Or is it a thing the doctors do because those want to get rid of something? Who is asking to evaluate a detective story? Sherlock Holmes isn't doing it. Of course he isn't. Knowing quite some of his stories, quite a lot, he was always thinking the unthinkable. And the unthinkable is that there is somehow a mistake, like having a button wrongly in the whole and then the whole rest in a right follow-up, and then not looking at the first one and not understanding something's wrong. But what could it be? What could it be? It is not possible. There's nothing. There had been a visitor in the out-of-church, also not church group, but it was extra out-of-church. Therefore, it was no group, it was like a room where people met. And there was not even ethical talk, it was only meeting room. And there we wanted to make a child contract. There we said, in the future we will do this and that. But this, it can't be. What else? Where is the wrong faucet? Mr. Watson, help me. Isn't he that versatile in financial tricks? Is it a bank or what? Was it this visitor after church? Yes, some came and said they took the advantage at Sunday to visit, and then after church there was a long stroll in the forest. Sometimes I thought people came for the stroll, for the walk, and not for the half an hour or hour. And then there was talk about not church things, but not that I thought it was possible. It had been possible, but it was about foreign countries. I'm quite interested to understand if it is possible that there is something. There had been a woman who was, it was said, I didn't believe it, she was the heir of a car manufacturing company. And she had no children. And then it really was the case. My old ma was talking about me, how she was pleased to have me as a helper. And I don't know what came out of it. I gave not too much heed to the idea that I would be adopted. You don't do it. The relationship to the parents are holy. I expected my father, it is really true, even if he then would have been more than 100 years. And I think my mother reached the age of 110. And this could be proved if you are interested. Why is no one interested if my mother is much older than her official record? A doctor once said so. Why then Mama said, oh, leave her alone. Oma was not wanting to talk about it. As you can imagine, there is the threat. The threat I don't understand. She wasn't going much out of house. And is there someone playing tricks? This is ridiculous because it is not possible. Is there a bank who is saying I had given the bank the allowance to have everything because I want to finance the mission of I don't know what. Please help me. What other trick is there? How can you redirect a thing? Maybe my whole mother. Maybe my mother was put under a false doctor's diagnosis. But don't tell the doctors. I already, really, I now start another style. It is artificial, but it isn't. Of course, yeah, understand. It is that I had been with circusmen, and others were Schaubudendarsteller. And we had a circus program where then the pouches were empty. Und also ich war klein, das stimmt jetzt wirklich. Und da haben wir mal den Spaß uns erlaubt, Taschen leer zu machen. Ich könnte noch einen draufsetzen. Also eigentlich kann ich, I can of course make fun and jokes. Und dann wird behauptet, also weil ich eigentlich ja die Familienangehörige, das ist ja eine Hausgemeinschaft, auch wenn es keine Familie ist. Das sehe ich ja jetzt. Eine Familie ist rechtlich, eine Hausgemeinschaft, also eine Hausgemeinschaft ist nicht rechtlich. Die Familie eigentlich auch nicht. Deswegen muss ich es eigentlich nicht sagen. Aber es ist ja wichtig, dass man versteht, jo, was stimmt doch nicht. Wer könnte da noch getrickst haben? Ich muss mich doch darüber lustig machen. Das Jugendamt oder was? Hat das mich vielleicht in eine Gesellschaft da hineingeschrieben, wo sowieso Vergemeinschaftung ist, so eine Art Kommunismus, Versuchslabor oder was? Oder ist vielleicht der Finanzminister ist der vielleicht, das wäre noch lustiger, von welchem Land denn eigentlich? Weil früher hieß es mal, der hat die Frau geheiratet, also ich bin jetzt keine Frau, aber ich würde mich auch nicht heiraten lassen wegen Geld. Aber man hätte eine Frau geheiratet und dadurch wäre die Frau arm geworden, weil die in dem Land nicht über das Geld verfügen könnte. Das würde da vom Gesetz her dem Mann gehören. Aber so ein Quatsch gibt's doch gar nicht. Ich bin auch mal besuchsweise, aber im Kloster habe ich mich doch nicht vermacht. Ja, ich war da mal, um zu gucken. Ich weiß nicht warum, da hat jemand die Möglichkeit gegeben, ich sollte mal gucken. Die haben auch gewirtschaftet. Und da suchte man nach neuen Möglichkeiten. Also so ungefähr, so was das hundertprozentig war, weiß ich nicht mehr. Und da ging es auch um kulturelle Verständnismöglichkeit, da möglichst alles zu verstehen. Und ich muss sagen, da läuft das doch sauber ab. Aber es hatte schon mal den Umstand gegeben, dass die schon das Vermögen verplant hatten. Also es macht jemand, vermacht jemand das Vermögen im Kloster, die rechnen doch dann auch damit. Aber ich habe mein Vermögen nicht im Kloster und auch sonst niemand vermacht. Weil ich ja gar keins habe. Meine Mutter auch nicht. Sie hatte auch keinen Sohn, sie hatte mal einen Ziehsohn, einen Pflegesohn. Wie viel denn eigentlich? Denn dann hieß es mal, sie hätte sich um verschiedene Kinder gekümmert. Das geht aber auch noch gar nicht. Es kann doch nicht diese Tante, das will ich ja gar nicht sagen, die weiß das doch, dass die dort ein Zuhause gefunden hatte. Das geht doch nicht. Ja, theoretisch geht das. Nein, unmöglich, geht nicht. Also vereinnahmt werden, das geht. Wie gesagt, durch falsche Aktenführung, durch falsche Zuordnung. Aber hier bitte mal drüber nachdenken, weil ich ja jetzt überlege, wo kommen denn die Schwierigkeiten her? Ich kann doch ruhig das erzählen, das stört doch niemanden. Wo kommen die her? Es ist doch Blödsinn. Das ist jetzt irgendwie ein König in China? Das ist mir völlig egal. Also ich will nicht dran denken, weil das mit dem Kerl, der jetzt nicht aus dem Süden, sondern eher aus dem Norden kommt, das ist geklärt. Meine Mutter sagte, sie fürchtet sich vor dem. Und dann habe ich nur gesagt, der kann doch hier nichts machen. Da gab es Meinungsverschiedenheiten. Und wenn das ein anderes Rechtssystem ist, kann das sein, dass der Vorteile hat. Dass meine Mutter sich fürchtete, dass er irgendwie etwas da ausnutzen würde. Das gab es häufiger. Es gab zum Beispiel in Norwegen diesen Zwist mit den Kindern, die von Besatzungssoldaten gezeugt worden waren. Das gab es. Und dann gab es auch andere Sachen, aber der hätte doch gar nichts zu sagen. Der hätte doch gar nichts zu sagen, weil das doch ein anderes Land ist. Also ich würde das mal ganz gerne wissen, was das sein könnte, weil es ist ja noch gar nichts da. Es ist ja noch gar nichts da. Aber ich gehe jetzt ganz weit zurück, als ich kleines Kind war, da haben sich die Leute um mich gekümmert. Und da sagte mal jemand, der wird das doch nicht ausnutzen. Und dann sagte jemand anderes, kann der doch gar nicht. Und dann sagte jemand, der in dem Land ist das vielleicht möglich. Und ich weiß das bis heute nicht. Gibt es ein Land, wo Eltern das Geld ihrer Kinder ausgeben können? Was für ein Land ist das denn? Naja, die Kinder haben ja auch normal nicht so viel Geld. Also ich möchte das gerne wissen als Theorie. um dann klarzustellen, weil das ja einfach Blödsinn ist, dass das ginge, dass es eben, dass man das ausschließt. Also eigentlich muss ich ja gar nichts sagen. Eigentlich muss ich da gar nichts sagen. Aber es gab diese Gespräche. Das war für mich schon peinlich. Aber es waren Leute ohne Kinder und die haben meine Mutter beneidet, dass sie noch ein Kind bekommen hatte. Ich will mich gar nicht wichtig machen, weil es war eher peinlich. Das ist auch lange her, das war vor der Schulzeit nachher. Hatte man ja gemerkt in der Schule, dass die Noten nicht so gut waren. Das hat aber andere auch wieder nicht interessiert. Hier hieß es eben, weil ich auch keine Lust hatte hier, das war wirklich angespannt. Ich will das jetzt nicht übertreiben. Ich hätte schon gerne gute Noten gehabt, ja. Ja, was hat es denn vielleicht noch gegeben? Da hat es ja den Ärger mit so einer Fabrik gegeben. Seltsamerweise hatten die auch keine Kinder, oder was? Die hatten dann auch mechanische Geräte hergestellt. Und ich weiß das nicht so genau. Aber daraus war natürlich auch nichts geworden. Und ich habe mich auch nicht beworben. Das ist natürlich äußerst unangenehm, aber ich muss das mal sagen, dass es das gegeben hat. Nicht, dass jemand denkt, der wäre gar nichts gewesen. Deswegen, bitte helfen Sie mir als erstes. Please help me first of all. Ich muss das mal aufschreiben. Also das hier ist falsch. Diesen Zettel hat man mir mitgegeben. Ja? Das ist falsch. Also ich war nicht 3,6 Kilo schwer. Das hier ist also ganz wichtig. 23.02.25. Und es wird mir schon helfen, weil hier habe ich ja überhaupt keine, also ich erwarte jetzt auch nicht zu viele Unterstützung, das muss auch nicht sein. Aber wenigstens, dass wichtig ist, dass das interessiert. Für mich ist jetzt konkludent, es geht auch nicht, dass so eine Absichtserklärung bei den United Nations, die wird auch nichts schon umgesetzt haben. Das kann man auch nicht machen. Ich habe gesagt, theoretisch, falls das stimmt, würde meine Lebensphilosophie so aussehen, dass ich dann die Vermögenswerte in einer gewissen Art umsetze. Weil nach meiner Lebensphilosophie will ich damit arbeiten. Und das ist eine Absichtserklärung, die aber noch überhaupt keinen Vertragscharakter hat. Das geht ja nicht. Ich kann ja noch nicht mal ein Grundstück verkaufen, ohne dass da ein Notar dabei ist. Ganz wichtig, dass ich wirklich schon so weit gedacht hatte, selbst wenn ich nicht wusste, und das weiß ich immer noch nicht, dass das stimmt, habe ich schon hypothetisch, weil ich wusste, ich werde nicht nochmal die Gelegenheit bekommen, dass ich da hinkomme. Das war schon fast klar, weil man schnüffelte mir schon hinterher. Deswegen gehe ich jetzt mal davon aus, dass es völlig normal ist, wenn der schnüffelt. Es gibt immer mehrere Bewerber für eine Sache und ich bewerbe mich ja überhaupt nicht. Ich habe mich da überhaupt nicht beworben. Andere haben das sich erarbeitet. Ich war eher so, dass ich dachte, eigentlich will ich das machen, was ich am besten kann, und das wusste ich noch gar nicht. Also konkludent möchte ich mal wissen, Geburt, also 1968 oder schon 67. Es kann sein, dass das nachträglich, also ich habe bisher gedacht, das ist eingetragen und ich wäre vorher. Es kann aber auch sein, dass das erst 1969 eingetragen wurde und dass das Jahr stimmt. Denn ich habe von der Erinnerung Gesichter. Und besonders die Geschichte, die ich schon verstanden hatte mit noch nicht mal einem Jahr, dass eine Frau nicht die erste Frau ist, aber sie hatte sich dann bereit erklärt, die Lebensaufgabe des Gatten zu erfüllen. Aber sie durfte sich auch um mich kümmern. Das war dann ihre Lebensaufgabe. Das heißt, das ist konkludent, dass ich nicht anders kann. Es sei denn, es gibt das Ehepaar noch einmal so ähnlich, Das ist die Mrs. Marshall. Und der Thurgood. Jetzt muss ich hier mal gucken, dass ich das hier mal aufkriege. Geht mal wieder nicht, das ist aber ganz lustig. Das heißt, ich werde das einfach so lassen. Also Bürgerrechtler. Das hier ist Mama. Die wollte ja sicher auch. Und das, wie gesagt, ach, habe ich ja noch gar nicht gezeigt. Das hier war der Anfang. Das war der Anfang. Aber ich habe schon gemerkt, das klingt so nach, ach, der will jetzt einfach was Schönes sagen. Das ist ja jetzt opportun, dass man da positiv drüber redet. Das konnte ich so nicht machen. Also ich muss ja als erstes mal überzeugend, wie das auch ist, dass ich da überhaupt nicht zuerst, soviel ich weiß, hatten die auch gar nicht mehr das Äußere, dass man da sofort sieht. Also vom Schatten her, wer das ist, ob das einer aus der Kirche oder aus der Synagoge ist, ja. Die haben aber schon noch sehr viel eigene Identität gehabt. Also nicht, dass man denkt, man hat das gar nicht gemerkt. Aber das sollte nicht die Rolle spielen. Und ich bin auch so erzogen worden, es gilt die Qualität. Und das, was ich am Anfang gesagt habe, das stimmt. Das sind qualitätsbewusste Leute gewesen, so nach meinem Jargon. Dass ich dachte, die Kinder müssen ja ganz schön viel Leistung bringen. Also wenn ich es jetzt mal so überblicke, musste ich das auch. Aber ich hatte halt keine Konkurrenz. Meine Mutter sagte ganz trocken, ich habe ja nur dich. Also die Ältere. Oder hatte ich doch Konkurrenz? Oder war das noch schlimmer? Das weiß ich ja nicht. Also wenn man jetzt Konkurrenz hat, dann weiß man, wenn man jetzt den ersten Platz hat. Ich wusste das nicht. Also diesen Vergleich hatte ich gar nicht geredet. Das hier ist Schulausweis, dass man weiß. Ja. Das hier bin ich wirklich. Ja, so dumm hatte ich mal unterschrieben. Hier ist jetzt anders. Das bin ich mit Mama. Ja, ich würde mich mal dafür interessieren, ob man mal rauskriegen kann, weil ich hatte schon den Verdacht, ich sollte mal was unterschreiben. Dazu war es nicht gekommen. Hat jemand anderes, deswegen kann man sich ruhig noch mal überlegen, hat mal einer unterschrieben, dann möchte ich jeden Vertrag vorgelegt bekommen. Ob der überhaupt von mir ist. Weil ich habe mich schon gewundert. Man hatte gefragt, willst du da einen Vertrag machen? Ich habe den nicht gemacht. Und als Detektiv muss ich ja jetzt vom Betrug ausgehen. Also das darf ich am Anfang nicht sagen. Wir sind jetzt noch im Partykeller, das ist noch immer mehr nachts und da wird man immer mutiger. Das hier ist so eine Sache, ja. Daran kann man mich noch erkennen. Das ist wie ein Fingerabdruck, das ist immer noch drin, ja. Hier, das erinnert an eine Sache, die ist schlimmer. Da sind sie, also an für sich waren das die Aufklärer, also wahrscheinlich die Telegrafen. Da sind die nochmal zusammengetrommelt worden. Und man hatte gesagt, eine Falle wäre das gewesen. Sie hatten leichte Bewaffnung und waren auch gar nicht mehr trainiert, aber sind unter Befehl gesetzt worden und sind aufgerieben worden. Und das waren dann die fehlenden Leute, die in Versailles fehlten. Deswegen musste der eigentlich noch relativ junge Vater, also man war erst erfahren, wenn man wirklich sehr, sehr erfahren war. der musste da schon Dinge machen, wo er sich nicht so gut auskannte. Das heißt, der Schaden, wenn das stimmt, der ist riesengroß gewesen, also dass das eine Falle gewesen ist, und es wird behauptet, da hätte ein General, der hätte vorgesorgt. Und als ich das mal hörte, habe ich gedacht, wenn das stimmt, dann wäre das ja wirklich Hochverrat. Wo man da die politischen Gegner, ja, oder wer auch immer. Und das ist eine ganz schlimme Sache, deswegen möchte ich das nicht deswegen muss ich das aussprechen, möchte ich das nicht unter der Decke, also als stillen Verdacht haben, sondern man muss das wirklich mal aufklären, ob das stimmt. Man muss mal wirklich aufklären, ob das stimmt. Weil es ist so schlimm gewesen, dass dann der Verdacht in alle Richtungen gestreut wurde. Es wurde von Verrat und so weiter gesprochen, aber auch davon, dass man sich gedrückt hätte. Und meine Mutter sagte, dass das nachher zum Teil so ausgesehen hatte, dass manche sich auch das Vermögen noch unter den Nagel hatten reißen wollen. Aber das kann man so nicht, also für mich ist das so heikel. Also es gab ein Gesetz, wenn jemand ein Kriegsverbrecher war, dann ging das Vermögen, also nach dem Ersten Weltkrieg, an den, der das Unrecht erlitten hatte. Also an den Zivilisten. Und da wurde herausgestellt, dass das nicht stimmte. Denn die Gefallenen konnten sich nicht mehr verteidigen. Hier waren nämlich viele gefallen. Und dann wurde einfach behauptet, sie wären Kriegsverbrecher. Und das hatte noch viel Kampf gegeben vor den Gerichten. Also das ist sehr heikel, deswegen bitte zurückstellen. Ich möchte hier nicht, dass das dann da losgeht, weil enteignet werden heißt, dass das Erbe von dem Gefallenen, also ich hoffe, das stimmt nicht, aber das ist schon ziemlich sicher gesagt worden. Deswegen müsste das eine Verschiebung sein, da muss man sich ja völlig vertan haben. Vielleicht ist das eine andere Schlacht. Aber eine der Schlachten, das hier ist ja ein Reiter-Emblem, an der Ostfront, und das ist österreichische Ostfront wahrscheinlich gewesen, also der Abschnitt. Und da wurden böse Dinge erzählt, wie das ja häufig ist. Da wird das umgedreht. Aber das sind die Fernaufklärer gewesen. Die haben die Feinde der preußischen Monarchie verfolgt. Und das könnte eine Rache gewesen sein. Allerdings geht das noch weiter. Einige haben überlebt. Und die sind dann nochmal aufgetreten. Aber ob das auch stimmt, und das hätte ihnen auch nochmal geschadet. So ganz sicher ist das nicht. Aber es ist der alte Geist, dass die diesem Befehl Folge leisten mussten, obwohl das gegen Kanonen unmöglich war. Die hatten nur Pferde und dann ihr Gewehr in der Hand. Und dort hätten sie ausnahmsweise im Osten schwere Kanonen gehabt. Also vom Osten dann geschossen. Zudem ist das dann die letzte Schlacht gewesen. Und dann ist es doch ein bisschen seltsam. Es wird doch nicht ein General gemacht haben, der offen als Gegner der Monarchie zu erkennen ist. Also das wäre für mich zu einfach. Für mich wäre das viel zu einfach, um da jetzt zu sagen, dass man daraus schlussfolgern kann. Also immer wenn eine Sache ganz einfach ist, muss man hinterfragen, aber es kann so einfach sein. Weil die Falle war ja schließlich legal. Wenn ein Befehl erteilt wird, muss die Einheit sich da sammeln. Ja. Und dann hat jemand behauptet, der Vater wäre da nicht hingegangen, aber meine Mutter hat gesagt, er ist verhindert worden. Oder er musste nach Versailles. Oder er musste, das heißt, es gab immer verschiedene Befehle. Also es gab auch höherrangige Befehle, also ich will mich da gar nicht einmischen. Aber es ist schon böse geredet worden. Und diese Art von Gerede, die möchte ich jetzt nicht lostreten. Ich möchte einfach nur daran erinnern, dass es dann diese Zufälle gegeben hat, wo man aufpassen muss. Denn dieses Gesetz, das dann, wenn einer des Kriegsverbrechens überführt wird, das Vermögen an den Geschädigten geht, das müsste auch noch überprüft werden, aber das soll es wirklich gegeben haben. Und dann ist auch aufgedeckt worden, dass das trickreich falsch genutzt wurde und dann aufgedeckt wurde. Ja. Und dann aufgedeckt wurde, dass das dann ein neues Verbrechen war, wo man mit einer falschen Anschuldigung, deswegen muss man hier schwer aufpassen. Ich möchte unbedingt verhindern, dass wenn jetzt also eigentlich ist das dann auch sinnlose Entscheidung, also ob das ein Verbrechen ist, weiß man, also weiß ich jetzt nicht. Wenn man da Fernaufklärer, die an für sich überhaupt nicht mehr, also sind eigentlich zu wertvoll, und die hätten dann die Beratung geben müssen in Versailles. Und deswegen hätte der Vater, obwohl er noch gar nicht diese Senior, ich weiß nicht, nach wie vielen Jahren man die erst hat, die Senior-Rangstellung gehabt hätte, hätte er dort auch beraten müssen. Was aber sicher ist, es haben diese Erkenntnisse gefehlt, die da eben dann entweder tot oder schwer verletzt nicht mehr einsatzfähig waren. Aber ist das eine Legende? Ja. Warum? Das Denkmal, ist das ein Beweis? Das steht ja nirgendwo. Deswegen möchte ich mal wissen, die Geschichte, die dahinter steht. Ich bin nämlich vorsichtig. Weil meine Mutter hat extra gesagt, es ist behauptet worden, das wäre der Verrat eines Kaisergegners gewesen. Aber für mich ist das zu einfach. Für mich ist das zu einfach, denn vielleicht hat der auch einen Befehl bekommen, dass es dann so aussieht. Da muss man aufpassen. Also muss man bei allen Dingen so machen, dass hier das Setting nicht darauf hinweist, zum Beispiel die das jetzt hier als Bereicherung bekommen haben, die sind nicht in jedem Fall darauf ausgewiesen. Genauso ist es, wenn jetzt Erbschaften, also die sind angekündigt worden. Da ist mir mal unterstellt worden, ich hätte mich eingeschlichen, ich habe gar nichts gesagt. Ich habe mal gesagt, man könnte ja helfen. Das hatte ich gesagt, weil jemand fragte, wie er helfen könnte. Aber an für sich ist das eine Unterstellung, man würde sich einschmeicheln. Denn das stimmt grundsätzlich nicht und das kann auch keiner selbst entscheiden. Und dann ist das schon sehr anrüchig, hier, dass das überhaupt nicht aufgeklärt wurde. Aber das war eines der Gründe, dass das wirklich so ist, dass Versailles eine Sache ist, wo man aufpassen muss. Dass jetzt mit Abstand da mal ganz nüchtern drüber nachgedacht wird. Es hatte Verrat gegeben, natürlich. Ob das die Grundlage war, kann ich nicht sagen, möchte ich nicht annehmen. Das möchte ich nicht annehmen. Also das ist dann so pauschal, das ist schwarz-weiß. Aber das hier ist eine wichtige Insider-Sache, wo aber meine Mutter sagte, man müsste sehr aufpassen. Und auch mir kam das zu einfach vor, um Schuld zuzuweisen. Ja, das hier ist mein Bild. Vielleicht sah der so aus, aber sieht eher wie ein Gemälde aus. Also das ist dann so eine Sache. Das hier ist auch eine Sache, wo ich mich jetzt wundere. Ich kann mich erinnern, dass wir das auch mal mit Statisten nachgespielt hatten. Und da frage ich mich natürlich, warum nimmt man da nicht das Original? Warum nimmt man da nicht das Original? Da sagte jemand, das ist die Ehrfurcht vor den Vorfahren. Aber ich weiß das nicht. Also als Kind kann ich da ja eh nichts machen. Jetzt kann ich nur darauf hinweisen, man hat manchmal das Original genauso nachgeschrieben und hat dann vielleicht ein Bild weggelassen. Vielleicht, weil die Nachfahren nicht wollten, dass das Bild veröffentlicht wird. Das soll es gegeben haben. Ich habe da jetzt nur das Hören. Ich wundere mich natürlich, was damit vielleicht anders aussieht. Das hier ist einfach mal, um zu zeigen, dass Hessen gar nicht so groß ist. Und dann wundere ich mich auch noch, hier gab es noch Gebiet auf der anderen Seite. Das ist dann durch die Besatzungseinteilung ein bisschen anders geworden. Ich weiß nicht, was das zu bedeuten hat. Ich möchte das möglichst genau haben. Ja? Und dann hatte ich das mal erfahren. Gleichzeitig auch, dass es verschiedene Versionen gibt. Und da wundere ich mich, warum das für die Leute wichtig ist. Hier soll auch noch ein Teil von Bayern gewesen sein. Warum das für die Leute wichtig ist, wahrscheinlich, weil sie genau sind. Ob ich daraus etwas lesen kann, weiß ich nicht. Das hier hat es wirklich mal gegeben, weil jemand angerufen hat, ich würde mit einem Stock an der Straße herumlaufen. Das sieht doch auch danach aus, als würde man hier den Teufel an die Wand malen. Denn ich kann doch mit dem Stock, also mit dem Spazierstock. Wo ist der denn jetzt? Ach, ich habe den schon mal gezeigt. Der ist schon ein bisschen dicker, aber seitdem traue ich mich da nicht mehr. Das hier ist ein Haus, das habe ich gefunden. Und ich werde daran erinnert, dass meine Mutter sagte, sie könnte vielleicht in einem Nebengebäude wohnen. Also als sie da diese Sache hatte, wo sie den Traum hatte, sie wäre früher, oder sie wäre die Prinzessin. Und ich muss das immer noch so vorsichtig sagen, weil da offiziell das ja nur ein Traum ist. Also ich komme immer mehr drauf, weil das hier ist ja der Wolfsgarten. Wieso hätte man ihr sonst da in einem Nebengebäude, warum Nebengebäude? Wer wäre denn in dem anderen Gebäude gewesen? Warum sagte Mama mal, sie durfte auch als Studentin in dem Prinzessinnenhaus helfen? Das ist da auch in der Nähe, das ist ein bisschen woanders. Da wo das Glashaus ist. Warum durfte sie mal in dem Prinzessinnenhaus helfen? Da komme ich mir doch so vor, als hätte man Mama vorenthalten, wer sie ist, und hätte sie dann eine Hilfstätigkeit in gerade der Anlage, die ihr eigentlich zustehen würde, so um zu sehen, ob sie sich dafür eignet. Man muss sie nicht bewerben. Mama muss sich nicht bewerben, also das ist doch dann eine Verpflichtung den Eltern gegenüber. Da ist ja der alte Großherzog gestorben und dann auch noch ist bekannt gewesen, dass er das Testament geändert hat, dass die Tochter erben kann. Vielleicht hat er die Enkeltochter als die Tochter angenommen. Das Gerücht hat es gegeben, aber es ging nicht darum, dass es Mama ist. Ich habe das einfach mal gehört und will das hier mal sagen. Hier stehe ich mit Mama und sie sagt, ich habe gedacht, das ist eine gute Freundin von ihr. Ein Teil von ihr liegt hier begraben. Der ist im Krieg geblieben. Da ging es um die Raketen. Da habe ich gedacht, noch einer, der im Krieg geblieben ist. So sah ich auch mal aus. Also falls man sich erinnern will. Das hier sind die Kirchen. Ich meine, eine Synagoge ist auch dabei, in Breslau. Und ich kann mich daran erinnern, dass damals immer gefragt wurde, wenn man eine Synagoge abbildet. Das war wahrscheinlich dann so eine Art Sensibilität, die ja durchaus gut ist. Aber trotzdem frage ich mich, also hier wird ja da jetzt nichts anders geworden sein, aber mich interessiert das doch sehr, wie das gewesen ist. Ich denke, man wird das schon so gemacht haben, dass das dann nicht anders aussieht. Das hier ist Mama, Papa. Und das gibt es gar nicht mehr. Das habe ich zwar noch angezeigt vorher, aber das ist schon eingeebnet. Das ist meine Mutter, die Ältere. Und jetzt habe ich das hier gefunden. Wer ist denn das? Weil ich wundere mich jetzt, wenn ich mir das angucke. Das hier ist ja das Sportleralbum. Und das ist schon zu wertschätzen, wenn man sich so viel Mühe macht, eine Sache jetzt nachzustellen. Das kann das Original sein. Aber ich möchte darauf hinweisen, man muss sich dann das auf Papier angucken. Es kann allerdings sogar das alte Papier genommen worden sein, wenn noch was da ist, zum Beispiel in der Druckerei. Und ich will da gar nichts unterstellen, es könnte stimmen, dass der Respekt den Vorfahren so weit geht, dass wenn jetzt ein Nachfahre das nicht will, dass dann aus der Sammlung sein Bild rausgenommen wird. Aber ich benötige hier praktisch Beweisstücke für die Konkludenz. Das ist mein Beispiel für so eine Kaserne. Nicht, dass man denkt, das wären ja so Riesenbauten gewesen, das waren eher kleine Spezialgruppen. Also von diesen Aufklärern. Und das hier ist einfach Erinnerung an damals. Das ist Erinnerung. Das heißt nicht, dass ich die Zeit so toll finde. Also ich habe immer gehört, dass jemand sagte, da bin ich Pimpf gewesen. Und das hier ist interessant. Da wollte jemand aufschreiben, dass sie damals ethisch, also kirchlich ethisch, gedacht hatten. Karl war ja als erstes, er hatte sich das genau ausgesucht, überzeugt, dass die katholische Diaspora, also diese Ausprägung dort in Oberschlesien, die richtige wäre. Dann hätte es irgendwie wegen einer anderen Sache Streit gegeben und sie seien nach Breslau gezogen. Und dort ist aber eindeutig Fritz Johann dann in einer Außerkirchengemeinde gewesen, wo ich davon ausgehe, dass sie evangelisch ist. Aber das ist ausdrücklich evangelisch nach Evangelium und nicht evangelisch nach lutherisch oder kalvinistisch, weil ich das nicht sagen kann. Das heißt, da ist noch viel Aufklärungsbedarf, aber die haben nach abendländischer Ethik gedacht. Und beachtlich ist, bis vor kurzem war der Stamm, nein, das kann ich nicht sagen, aber der Anführer, ja was denn, agnostisch gewesen? Also jedenfalls nicht dem Abendländischen zuzurechnen. Und dann hatten sie aber westliches Diplomatendenken gelernt. Das war überzeugt, das ist die bessere Lösung. Das war wirklich überzeugend, muss ich sagen. Und jetzt haben wir schon 3 Stunden, 42 Minuten. Ich hoffe, das wird gut, dass es auch hochkommt. Und es geht nicht darum, dass ich so wichtig bin. Das ist im Partykeller. Ich muss ja nochmal sagen, ich wäre keine erneute verrückte Schizophrenie-Diagnose. Ich sage nicht, dass ich verrückt bin, weil man sich das nicht vorstellen kann. Ich sage, dass ich einfach als Detektiv die Puzzleteile zusammennehme und ich habe jetzt auch Veranschauungsbilder, dass ich sage, Mensch, dann denken wir doch mal so. Denn nachher stimmen die Vorwürfe. Ich dachte, das sind Leute, die wünschen sich jemand von früher. Angeblich sind sehr viele gestorben, wurden seltsamerweise nicht so alt. Dann sind dann Stellvertreter zu Originalen erklärt worden und dann wieder untergetaucht. Das hat jemand behauptet und ich dachte, gut, dass ich nicht dazugehöre. Und das ist ja auch erstmal so, weil man gehört nicht automatisch am Haus an, das geht ja nicht. Ein Haus, das ist wie eine weiß ich nicht, Genossenschaft ist noch was Spezielles. Aber wie eine, nicht nur wie, das ist eine vertragliche Bindung unter bestimmten Regeln. Jetzt bin ich schon viel zu müde. Wir haben ja schon 13:17 Uhr. Und ich bin froh, dass ich das mal gemacht habe, weil es geht nicht darum, ob ich einen guten Eindruck mache oder nicht. Es geht darum, dass ich das einfach mal aussprechen muss. Was damals ich doch nicht geglaubt habe. Meine Mutter hatte eine Rolle. Das fand ich beachtlich. Sie war ein talentiertes Kind. Sicher, Mama dann auch. Mama hatte aber eher schon die Nase voll. Und meine Mutter hatte noch mal ein Kind, ihr eigenes. Und dann waren die anderen sehr alt und die hatten kein Kind. Also ich habe da wirklich gehört, der Sohn, wo der gefallen ist. Und auch Töchter. Und ich möchte ja nicht gerne darüber reden, aber das hat man so viel gehört, dass mich das immer noch stört, dass dann das Gedenken plötzlich aufgehört hatte, als die eigenen Eltern daran nicht mehr dachten. Das ist jetzt nicht irgendwie aufgesetzt, manche denken das so. Und das ist auch nicht stur, sondern ich sage einfach, dieses Land riecht doch nach der Geschichte, die hier stattgefunden hat. Wenn man sich mal vorstellt, es wäre möglich, also Widukind, weiß ich nicht, Wittekind, hier ein Stammesfürst von hier, der wäre dann, und Karl der Große, aber das wäre mir zu weit, aber theoretisch, wenn das also jetzt überhaupt schon stimmt, Watson, wenn die Theorie stimmt, dann geht das aber weiter. Aber warum lebe ich noch? Weil es bisher unbekannt war. Und wer kann mir helfen, dass ich bitte schön weiterlebe? Das hat nichts mit mir zu tun. Das hat damit zu tun, dass man erstmal ehrlich ist. Es hat bisher keinen interessiert, ob ich sicher lebe oder nicht. Und deswegen ist das mein Ernst, dass ich gesagt habe, ich habe das Gesetz in anderem Zusammenhang mal gesehen. Ich kann das immer noch nicht fassen. Ich habe jemand anders geholfen, dass der als Monarch für seine Nachkommen abgesichert hat, dass sie versorgt sind. Der hatte sich wirklich Sorgen gemacht. Er würde ja demokratische Kräfte zulassen, aber er hatte Sorge, dass sie sich rächen würden. Und das ist durchaus geglaubt worden, weil durch Gesetzgebung kann man ganz viel verschieben. Da fällt mir einiges ein, so an Bemerkungen, was ich im Osten gehört hatte. Aber da will man ja nicht viel drauf geben, die sind ja auch rechtstreu. Die sagen eben, also sie würden am liebsten und so weiter, alle reichen Leute, nein, das sagen sie ja nicht. Aber die haben schon eine Ethik gehabt, die ich bedenklich fand. Aber vielleicht wissen sie es nicht anders. Das sagt man und das ist Stammtischgerede. Man hält sich ja trotzdem an das Gesetz. Ja, natürlich. Und das machen die Ärzte. Die arbeiten einfach unsauber. Ja, ist so. Und zufällig dann nochmal? Bitte mal aufschreiben, was ist denn eigentlich überhaupt Schizophrenie? Mich interessiert das nicht besonders. Aber das Ekelhafte, dass das dann mit so komischen Zusätzen, dann gibt es irgendwann Anfälle, dann gibt es dann Phasen, dann gibt es dann Psychose. Was ist eigentlich eine Psychose? Ist das Gürtelrose? So irgendwie hinterm Ohr oder was? Ja, ich habe nicht allzu viel Respekt. Ich habe die Akten gesehen in der Altenpflege. Da kommt ein Gutachter und ich sehe, wie er da in die Akte reinguckt und ich denke, da haben Altenpfleger eingetragen, die noch nicht mal richtig lesen und schreiben können. Ich sage, Herr Doktor, Sie müssen da wirklich in das Zimmer gehen. Das ist doch nur 20 Meter. Und der ärgert sich und geht da hin und sagt, ich mache das nicht. Der sieht ja wirklich ganz anders aus. Und da macht er gar nichts. Das war natürlich ein krasses Beispiel, das hat es genauso gegeben. Der war ärgerlich. Die hätte sonst einfach, weil das wäre nicht schlimm gewesen. Es ging um Pflegestufe. Wahrscheinlich hat er gedacht, ist doch egal, kriegt er ein bisschen mehr Geld. Vielleicht ist da sogar weniger Geld reingekommen, das kann sein. Das kann sein, aber ich bin doch verpflichtet, wenn ich merke, die Aktenlage stimmt nicht. Es kann auch sein, dass der, weiß ich, nein, kann eigentlich nicht sein, aber ist es möglich? Das hat es wirklich gegeben, dass jemand von einer Küche ernährt wird und der hat solche Ausschläge, dass der wie krank da liegt. Und dann kriegt er anderes Essen, weil das eine andere Küche ist, die anders würzt. Und plötzlich blüht er wieder auf. Also wer das nicht glaubt, soll sich das angucken. Das heißt, durch die Erfahrung habe ich gedacht, es ist alles zu hinterfragen. Aber ich hätte nie gedacht, dass jemand sich Videos anguckt und sagt, er bringt den Satz nicht zu Ende. Und dass ich muss das erklären, dass ich in einer Rolle bin. Das ist doch hier ein Setting. Und ich stelle mir doch bestimmte Dinge vor. Und ich stelle mir auch dann Interessierte vor, die auch mal träumen wollen. So, und wenn das wirklich so ist. Und ich komme immer mehr darauf, es muss doch so sein, die sind doch nicht doof, die mich da mal eingeladen haben aus sogenannten östlichen Ländern. Die sind doch nicht doof. Hier ist gesagt worden, die glauben das eben. Ja, Tschechien, das Ostblock hieß es. Ich habe nichts dazu gesagt, weil wenn ich in Tschechien war, die sagten Amerikaner. Ich bin nicht dazwischen. Ich muss sagen, ich sehe das differenziert. Ich kann da keine Box haben, also keine Schublade Amerikaner und keine Schublade Tschechien. Damals hieß Tschechoslowakei Tschechien. So umgangssprachlich. So, und bitte friedlich bleiben, der Tausender hat es gerade geknallt. Das kann ich natürlich nicht gebrauchen. Also, wir bleiben friedlich und mit den Waffen des Geistes. Und vielleicht können Sie das, wir haben jetzt Sonntag, 23. Februar 2025, vielleicht können Sie das, wieso ist das hier eigentlich so, dass ich diese Schrift nicht mehr sehe? Das ist natürlich nicht so gut. Vielleicht können Sie ja anfangen, das weiter zu sagen, dass es sich hier lohnt, mit einer bescheidenen Spende anzufangen. Und wenn man dann die Ergebnisse sieht, kann man das anpassen. Es geht ja nicht darum, dass man sich gleich ganz verpflichtet. Und es geht auch nicht darum, da irgendwelche Böller da draußen zu zünden. Ich möchte nicht zu viel Interesse. Ich muss das runter flach halten. Denn es gibt hier auch nicht die absolute Sache. Man muss da ganz genau unterscheiden. Es kann sogar sein, dass das je nach Rechtssystem, und das könnte sehr viele Unterschiede machen in der Welt, mal so, aber ich möchte eigentlich erstmal Grundlage wissen, okay? Und dann pass the buck, also den schwarzen Peter weiterschieben, erstmal gar nicht. Aber ich habe das schon mitbekommen. Manche denken weiter. Und dann gab es sogar schon unverschämte Leute, die haben früher, wenn da irgendwas rauskam, die haben ja schon fertiges Papier gehabt. Das geht doch überhaupt nicht. Ein fertiges Papier? Hier ist jeder verpflichtet, der irgendwie weiß, dass es eskalieren könnte, deeskalierend zu wirken. Das ist Ihre Verpflichtung auch. Vielen Dank, 3 Stunden, 53 Minuten, 20 Sekunden. Friedrich, mein Name. Dieser kleine Depps hier. Der hat auch das dann schon als Kind. Das war aber nur die Idee, ja. Ich weiß nicht, ob das wirklich hilfreich ist, wenn man da solche Dinger drin hat. Aber es sollte eben zeigen, dass das Buch Grundsätze des Lebens aufzeigt. Zuerst geht es hier um die Beziehung im innersten Bereich. Und meines Erachtens arbeitet man dann an den anderen Regeln. Aber hier könnten welche frei gewesen sein, die man erstmal gar nicht akzeptiert hat, als im westlichen System zugehörig. Und dann sind sie wiedergekommen aus Amerika. Das kann durchaus sein, wenn das jetzt stimmt. 1877, das war kein Selbstmord, da hatte jemand das Haus angezündet. Aber wie kann der bis 1934 weitergelebt haben? Also da stimmt einiges noch nicht. Wir müssen doch richtig an den Grundlagen arbeiten. Vielen Dank. Bis zum nächsten Mal.